God uses all things for good for those who believe. And the president and I were talking one day, and I was saying that, you know, that we were talking about how our country was getting completely destroyed everywhere. And I told him, I said, you know, Mr. President, these bad things are actually helping. They're opening people's eyes, and it'll end up being a good thing. And he said, well, Mike, they're destroying our beautiful country, and it's going to take so much to fix it all. And I said, sir, with God, all things are possible, and God working through you, you'll get it fixed faster and better than ever. Well, hasn't this first month been a miracle, huh? Thank you, Mr. President, for getting so much done in such a short period of time. It actually is a miracle. I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Everybody loves our president. Some just don't know it yet. True. This has all been on God's timing, and I believe our great president, if he was put in right after the stolen election, we would have lost our country forever. It would have been too soon. There were so many things that we had to find out over the last 4 years, and especially there's one thing that was important. We had to get our voice back. On January 7th and 8th of 2021, those 2 days are historically important. 1.2 million people were deplatformed and canceled on Vimeo, YouTube, Zuckerberg's Facebook, Jack Dorsey's Twitter. If you spoke out about the stolen election, you were deplatformed. The rest of the country was too afraid to say anything because of January 6th. They went completely silent in fear. And it reminds me, like when I was a kid, we had black and white TVs, and we would turn them off as kids, and they would go down to a little tiny dot. And we would go, and we'd turn it on right before that dot went out. It would all come back to life. Well, that little dot was our voice. And if our voice would have went out, it would have been just like Ronald Reagan said, we're like a beacon of light on a hill. If the lights go out here, they go out everywhere. It would have been over. But our voice did not go out. We turned that back on, and our voice has gotten bigger and brighter than ever before. And this is, you know, we never gave up. People started forming their own platforms, and this is where CPAC came in. How important is CPAC that gave us a platform? I couldn't speak anywhere back then except for CPAC. So important is CPAC. I and many of you were giving a world stage for our voice when almost every other platform had either blocked us or given up. We never stopped speaking out, and our voice has grown to the biggest it's ever been. We have beaten, there's two parts to this. We have beaten the biggest cover-up of the biggest crime in history. The uniparty, the deep state globalists, and the media tried to completely bury the truth about the 2020 election. 4 years later, evil has failed. Everybody knows the truth. I told people before the 2024 election, if they tried to steal it again, just like if they'd have tried to give us China virus 2.0, we would not have stood for it. We would have said, open up those machines. Or we would have said, no, we're not going to sit out in snowbanks wearing masks and be banned from our own houses. We would not have tolerated another stolen election. And evil knew this, and they also knew that it was too big to rig, as the president likes to say. If they would have done it, it would have been one of the biggest deviations in history, and we would have said, we're on to you now. Well, that's their tool to steal elections. By the way, and the media will like this, the fake news, they did steal 4 senators and 9 congressmen that my teams know of in this last election, just so you all know that. Okay? 132 countries have banned electronic voting machines, and they've done it for a reason. More than 100 countries have banned early voting and mail-in voting. The United States of America has the worst election platforms in the world. We now have to make elections great again. We need to go to paper ballots, hand-counted, same-day voting, precinct level, and voter ID just the way our great president wants us. We have to lead the world in secure elections. We cannot let this time with the greatest president in history be in vain. This must be the time that God triumphs over evil. We have to have our voices stronger than ever, and we will never, ever stop until, with this critical timing, we have to get to paper ballots. We will never stop. We have to get there now. I encourage all of you to go to LindellTV.com. This is my voice. We have the greatest mayor ever, Mayor Rudy Giuliani over there. We have Emerald Robinson and many other hosts in our 24/7 TV lineup. We were granted, what a blessing, we have White House reporters right at the White House right now with Lindell TV. You have live reporting every single day. And I'd like to thank, I needed help, and I'd like to thank our great new sponsors like Fisher Liberty Gold and Airwater Healing. They're going to be they're at the booth. But during these times when I was canceled, they're trying to cancel everything I stand for to get rid of these machines and go to paper ballots. They stood up and said, hey, we're going to help. We're going to sponsor Lindell TV. So thank you. I'd like you all to visit our booth at Lindell TV, the booth that we have here. Visit, and I need every one of you to get involved now. We are at a critical time in history. The stuff we put out, we have all the pieces to do this. We just need your votes to magnify the truth to the world as we get into this over the next months here and start putting all this information out and what we're doing from the ground up. And from our great president down. We're doing everything humanly possible to get to this great place with our election platforms. God gave us grace for such a time as this, and we are in the best times to be alive in history and the greatest revival for Jesus Christ ever. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you all.
Four-time Prime Minister of Slovakia, a small, proud country in the heart of Europe. In May last year, an opposition activist tried to assassinate him for his policies. For politics based on the ideals of fight against fascism, for wanting an immediate end to the war in Ukraine, for the return of common sense and the barrier against wokeness when he endorsed constitutional definition of marriage as the unique union of a man and a woman. For his grasp of reality when he vetoed the compulsory redistribution of illegal migrants among the European Union member states, for pursuing a sovereign Slovak foreign policy to all four cardinal points, for treasuring freedom of speech and rejecting the politics of single correct political opinion. For the first time, Prime Minister of the Slovak Republic is coming to CPAC.
Who's AARP really watching out for these days? They've made billions partnering with big health insurance corporations while opposing reforms seniors want, like applying big discounts to medicines directly at the pharmacy counter. Instead, AARP supports liberal price-setting schemes, giving politicians, not seniors, control over any so-called Medicare savings. With no guarantees, funds won't be spent on unrelated programs or pad big insurers' profits. If AARP and Congress believe America's seniors aren't watching, think again. Paid for by American Commitment.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior. And he's there to change your life for the better.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, a conversation with White House Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair and Breitbart Washington Bureau Chief Matt Boyle.
James, how are you, sir?
Good to see you, Matt.
I like those cufflinks.
Thank you.
They're very nice. Okay, so James, you were the Deputy Chief of Staff in the White House. There's a bunch of you guys that are Deputy Chiefs of Staff, and a bunch of them are going to be here. All the President's men are going to be here at CPAC, so it's really exciting. Tell us about your specific role in the White House. We were talking about this last night. Tell us about the various departments that you oversee inside the White House.
Yeah, I really oversee the external portfolio of the White House. There's three main components to that. We have our Office of Legislative Affairs, which obviously is really the President's lobbying arm on Capitol Hill. We have the Office of Political Affairs, which is just the political operations that come from the White House and run externally, of course. And then the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, which deals with interplay between federal, state, and local governments and tribal governments.
Okay, so we're seeing right now, in terms of a pace from President Trump, I mean, the amount of executive orders, I think I saw somebody say that there are more executive orders we've seen President Trump sign than there are primetime viewers on CNN, right? Like, but we're seeing the level of action is just incredible, right? Like, it's rapid fire, lots of different action out there. I'll tell you, the person that I think would really, and I know a little bit of something about this because I work for Breitbart, that I think would be absolutely loving this is the one and only Andrew Breitbart. And at CPAC, of course, we got to give Andrew Breitbart a shout out because Andrew Breitbart was CPAC, right? But tell us what it's like in there in the White House every day. It seems like it's a pretty crazy, wild schedule, if you will.
It's a frenetic pace for sure, but you know, the president has thought deeply about what he wants to accomplish in the time he was not in the White House, obviously. And he's been spending a lot of time planning and obviously asking his team to plan the actions that we've executed so far. So I get asked a lot, was all this planned? And you know, obviously new ideas come up every day, but a lot of it, if not most of it, was planned. He's thought deeply since he left the last time around, and he knows that he wants to accomplish a lot in a short period of time. So really, it's all of us just playing catch up with the president. It's great to have an energetic leader. He runs circles around all of us. He doesn't sleep. He works all the time, and he's really committed to making this time in office very useful for saving the country. I mean, he's just going to do what he said he was going to do, and that's it.
All right, so James, one of the major departments you oversee is the political affairs, obviously. You were the political director for the Trump campaign. One of the reasons why we are where we are today is that President Trump was able to, in this last election in 2024, pull off arguably one of the greatest political transformations in the history of mankind. I mean, we are seeing lifelong Democrats, frankly, vote for President Trump. A lot of black voters, Hispanic voters. I think I saw him put on his Truth Social recently a list of all the counties he flipped from Democrat control. Tell us, you're the nuts and bolts guy of how this happened, right? Like, so tell us, how did you guys pull this off from the Trump campaign? And then we'll get into how we hold it together, because I think it's important that we hold this together for the long term. But walk us through how you guys did it.
Yeah, well, so they say success is where preparation meets opportunity, right? Obviously, we had a plan, but the plan primarily was to capitalize on opportunities that existed within these, different populations of voters that maybe have not traditionally voted Republican. We've really seen, the last 10 years, really since President Trump came into office, has been a slow-moving realignment politically, and a lot of significant demographic shifts are coming with that that are good for Republicans writ large if, really very simply, Trump voters can be converted into Republican voters. And that is, I think, the main thing that everyone has to focus on for the midterms and going forward. And I think the reason for that is issues. Good policy is good politics. President Trump is not like every Republican politician, as we all know, for the last several decades, particularly cuts against the mold of Washington. And I think that's really important. I think the number one thing, and just to put some stats on it, President Trump gained more popular votes than any Republican ever has. It was the first popular vote win. It was the first popular vote win for a Republican president in 20 years and the first non-incumbent since 1988. The House Republicans won more popular votes than they ever have, and he swept the Senate majority into office. And really, President Trump performs above all other Republicans. And that's because a lot of these voters that are with him have not come over to the party. And the way we solve for that going forward is to pass the agenda that he campaigned on. That's what they voted for. And I think that if we give the voters what they paid for with their vote, they will reward us with a long-term political realignment. One thing I like to point out is only because a lot of people say, well, presidents always lose the midterms. Often true, but not always. In the last 100 years, there's only 2 midterms where a president has added seats to both chambers of his party. One was 2002, and obviously that was post 9/11, kind of a unique time for our country, very patriotic, rallying around President Bush. And the other was 1934, which was after the New Deal passed. And that really set in motion a 100-year realignment of politics. And it came out of what they did. And I think that needs to be the model we're looking at, where we're not looking for incremental change, and we need our Republicans in Congress to help us with that. We need to look for big change. And I think if we enact big change, which the president campaigned on, we'll be rewarded politically for a long time.
Couldn't agree more. So it feels like we have a different look. I've been doing this for a long time at Breitbart. I've been at Breitbart for 12 years. I've been reporting in the conservative movement for 15. It feels like the Republican Party is a different Republican Party now, and this is in large part thanks to President Trump and his endorsements. We've got new incoming exciting senators, people like Jim Banks from Indiana, who I think we heard from yesterday, Bernie Moreno from Ohio, Dave McCormick from Pennsylvania, Tim Sheehy from Montana. These are exciting young voices that are, 8 years ago, President Trump had a rough time of getting his cabinet through. This time around, he's actually beating with a smaller smaller majority of his party, Barack Obama, from 2009 when he was confirming his cabinet. The Trump's cabinet is almost all confirmed now. How has the party changed in a better way that is reflecting this transformation that we're talking about? Because it's bigger than Trump, I think. I think it's happening in the Senate. It's happening in the House, too.
Absolutely. Frankly, I think our Republicans in Congress are getting on board and seeing that we can do things differently. Look, with the cabinet, President Trump selected a cabinet that reflects the diversity of the coalition that swept him into office, and the diversity of thought, and that was important to him. And we're grateful to our Republican senators for moving them through with, relatively little hiccups overall. And I think the president's view is that those voices are what the people voted for, and that is the government they want to see. And I think the Senate sees that. I mean, it's undeniable, ultimately. And I do think that, thinking back to 8 years ago, many people feel that in some ways President Trump's presidency wasn't given a chance because of the attacks that started from really pre-day one. And I think they recognize how much time he has spent reflecting on his 4 years in office and how he has come through the greatest weaponization in history, all the things that we all know. I mean, nobody has undergone more challenges to get to an office than President Trump, and I think they're quite deferential to giving him the opportunity and the team he wants to not have that happen again. And despite those challenges in the first term, he had a historic presidency. And now I think the feeling is, well, if we just support him and support the folks that helped get him elected, then maybe we'll all do better. A rising tide will lift all boats, and I think that's what we're seeing.
So, James, the big question is, the first major elections we're going to see in just a few short weeks here in Wisconsin. We have Wisconsin Supreme Court races coming up in April, the governor races and state level races later this year. We got some special elections coming up for some of the seats that have been opened up by cabinet picks. We've got, and then we have the midterm elections less than 2 years away. So how do you guys make sure that the political transformation we saw in November, those new voters, walk in beyond just that 1 year, that it isn't just a fleeting thing, that this is a lasting political realignment, similar to the 1934 one you're talking about in the FDR years?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, that's for sure. The Wisconsin Supreme Court race, we've been looking at numbers there, and there's some folks getting involved for the conservative. That'll be challenging, I'll say. I mean, it'll be challenging because if you look at the data in Wisconsin, what carries President Trump is a group of voters who only vote when Trump is on the ballot. And the thing that we have to accomplish in all of these elections is getting that specific group of people. There's super voters on both sides, but getting the people that are sort of with the Trump worldview, who aren't necessarily Republicans, but many of them, would sort of consider themselves that now, is getting them to go to the polls when President Trump's not on the ballot and helping them understand that supports his worldview ultimately.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of bring this around, look, you have a standing army out here in the audience, right? These are President Trump supporters out here, here at CPAC. The millions and millions of people watching at home, what would be your marching orders to these folks out here in the audience that are watching this event right now, that are watching us have this conversation? What do they need to do to help solidify this political realignment?
Well, I mean, two things. One, put in the legwork. Obviously, we always need volunteers, and in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, the Wisconsin GOP and many others are getting involved. And if you've got time to spare, go do it. It's very important. There's a lot at stake in that race, not the least of which, could be the future of congressional maps, which is very important. We'll see what happens. But just spread the word and continue to, frankly, encourage Republicans that are down ballot of President Trump to support his agenda, which is often but not always exactly aligned with, the historic contours of the party. I mean, the last thing I'll say is I'll leave you with this. There's 13 seats in the House of Representatives that are occupied by Democrats that President Trump won. On average, the Republican underperformed him by 5.2 points. There's only 3 seats in the House that Republicans hold that Harris won. So that gives you some sense of the fact that we should be playing offense here. But that requires bringing all of the other Republicans up to the vote coalition that President Trump has and brought into office. So follow the Trump agenda and pass it, and we will all be rewarded for it.
Really exciting stuff. Thank you, James, for a great conversation, and give our best to President Trump.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Fannie, Letitia, and Jack, the Legal Evils. Please welcome Senior Fellow at Claremont Institute, John Eastman, and partner at Tactic Global, Barry Bennett.
Thank you very much. My name is Barry Bennett, and this is Professor John Eastman. The professor is a brilliant legal scholar, and I am a fan of, just watched the TV show Lincoln Lawyers. We have a lot in common. But what we do have in common, unfortunately, is that we were both made victims of our own government because we dared stand with Donald Trump. For me, I ran Ben Carson's campaign back in 2015, 2016, Great American. And I became a senior advisor to the Trump campaign in 2016. Within months of working at the Trump campaign, Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, gave my name along with 25 others to the Five Eyes to ask our so-called allies to spy on us in the Russia Gate. That led to me being bumped by both the UK and Australia and endlessly grilled about Russia and Hillary's emails and all this other crap. And then that, led to, the FBI taking my phone and my emails, the emails of my 9-year-old kid. They took my Uber Eats account. They got a lot of information there. But, one of the things, unfortunately, that John and I have in common, we both had to spend millions of dollars to defend ourselves. And John, I'm further along in the process. John is still in the fight, and he needs our help. But anyway, I want to be quick and tell you who I was and what I've gone through, but John's case is really happening right now. So I want him to have 7.5 minutes, and I'll take 2.5.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Look, one of the most egregious examples of the psychological analysis of projection was when the Democrats, before the 2024 election, said President Trump would weaponize the Department of Justice. I said, are you kidding me? What have we been looking at for the last 4 years? They took my phone in New Mexico outside of a restaurant with an egregiously broad warrant that said all the data on your phone. Now, we fought a Revolutionary War to stop that. That's called the general warrant. The Fourth Amendment requires that they identify what they're going to search and seize with particularity. They just said everything on your phone. And of course, modern phones are a portal to everything, every communication, every transaction you have. They said, oh no, we're not allowed to look at what we've seized until we get a second warrant. And about a month later, I start getting inquiries from a taint team in Portland, Oregon, asking if certain things I was going to assert privilege over. I said, well, I've got a question. How do you even have that? Where was this second warrant? Oh, we got that. I said, I haven't seen it. Well, yeah, but the phone was in our possession by then, so we served the warrant on ourselves. This is utter nonsense, and they are shredding the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, the right to counsel, the right to attorney-client privilege. I had a client, my wife sometimes he would forget the time zone difference from where I was on the West Coast and where he was, 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, and my wife would nudge me and said, you better get that, it might be the client. Well, the client was the President of the United States. And he asked me to help him get the legal challenges to the fraudulent and illegal election in 2020 for the courts to actually consider that. And for that, I was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in Jack Smith's criminal prosecution against President Trump, an indicted co-conspirator in Georgia, an indicted co-conspirator in Arizona, where I had no involvement whatsoever. They've put my bar license in California currently on inactive status. I can't practice out there. At least I'm still able to practice before the Supreme Court of the United States. But part of what's going on here, and they've admitted this, it's to scare lawyers from ever taking on causes or clients that the left doesn't want you to take on. This is an egregious abuse of our criminal justice system, the likes of which we have never seen. In 1940, Franklin Roosevelt's new appointment as Attorney General, Robert Jackson, he would later become Supreme Court Justice and later head of the Nuremberg trials after World War II. And he had all the U.S. attorneys in the country at a meeting, and he warned them not to abuse their power. And the greatest temptation for abuse of power was to find people you don't like and then scour the books to see if you can pin something on them, rather than beginning with the crime and investigate who done it. And that's what we have been witnessing out of the Department of Justice, out of the FBI, out of that ridiculous select committee on J6, with Liz Cheney running it, and destroying exculpatory evidence, issuing subpoenas without sign-off by courts, acting as law enforcement agencies without all the guardrails that our Constitution puts on law enforcement agencies. And people have said, well, Eastman, why don't you just look forward and leave it alone? Don't look back. If we don't get to the bottom of what they did and hold the people who did it accountable, they will do it again the first opportunity they get. So I have been thrilled with all of President Trump's nominees, but I think the one that is going to be most relevant to this fight is the one that got confirmed yesterday, 51-48, Kash Patel. Because in my view, what we have been witnessing is a nationwide conspiracy to deprive political opponents of their constitutional rights to free speech, to assembly, the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. And if you don't hold people accountable for what they did for that, that's a federal felony, by the way. There's a group called States United Democracy Center. They filed the bar complaint against me in California. They're a rabid anti-Trump organization designed to go after all the lawyers that were trying to help Trump. They were the ones that were hired by the Attorney General of Arizona to prepare the prosecution memo for the electors and me and unindicted co-conspirator Trump in Arizona. And I've told media, I said, that's a little like hiring the fox to do the safety memo for your chicken coop. It's utter nonsense. And the people that are doing that need to be held accountable. And you know, if they spend some time in prison, maybe the next time they get power, they'll be a little bit hesitant about taking on this kind of lawfare against us.
Amen. Amen. And we'll never get our privacy back. We may never get our reputations back, but this must not happen again.
That's right. I teach at the Claremont Institute, our summer fellowship program, and I was teaching our John Marshall Fellows, young lawyers, when the indictment in Georgia came down, and everybody's phone starts going off, and they made fun of it at the end of the week when they did our big roasting. But the gentleman that roasted me then turned serious. And he said, what we saw here was an exhibition of courage, and courage is contagious. And then he said, if you think about the last line of our national anthem, it's not so much whether that flag was still waving, it's what kind of land it is waving over. Is it still the land of the free and the home of the brave, or is it now the land of the coward and the home of the slave? And ladies and gentlemen, I've got grandkids, and I'm not willing to hand them over to a land of the coward and the home of the slave. We fight this battle until we win permanently. We fight it every day. We fight it in the streets. We fight it in the courts. We fight it wherever we can, because our freedom is too precious to give up. Thank you. You think about it, our founders pledged to each other their lives, and they meant it. Their fortunes, and they meant it. Just ask Robert Morris, who funded the Revolutionary War largely. But most importantly for them, more important than either of those, they pledged their sacred honor. What kind of sacred honor will we have if we hand off to our grandkids an enslavement contrary to what we inherited from our forebears. This is the fight for our time. It's the fight worth having. I can't think of anything more important to be doing. And I thank you all for being here and for the army that you are, for keeping America free, keeping America prosperous, and let's make America great again. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Wherever human freedom is under attack, in courtrooms, legislatures, and the public square, we stand ready to defend it. This is why Alliance Defending Freedom exists.
Supreme Court victory for a Christian woman who was taken to court for standing firm in her beliefs.
The First Amendment follows a golden rule. If we want to protect speech for ourselves, then we need to protect it for others.
A video released this week by ADF International has attracted over 34 million views and even attracted comment from Elon Musk. It concerned a pair of Swiss parents who have had their child taken away from them because they objected to her gender transition.
We're not just here to stop the erosion of liberty for this moment alone. We are here to keep the door open for the gospel. And when the gospel does its work, truth doesn't just hold its ground. It advances. It sets people free for generations to come. This is our mission at Alliance Defending Freedom.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Before the cabinet room, you saw Donald Trump's next cabinet make waves at CPAC.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome nominee for Director of Voice of America, Kari Lake.
I gotta take this in. You guys look phenomenal. You look great. I know why. We're all sleeping better, aren't we? How many of you are sleeping so much better since January 20th? I curl up every night with the sweetest dreams, and watching what President Trump has accomplished and done in 1 month is so incredible. Every day feels like Christmas Day, and every night feels like New Year's Eve. We got something to celebrate. And I want to thank Matt and Mercy for bringing us all together to celebrate This amazing month that we've had. Hasn't it been great? It's been wonderful. You know, a lot of you know about my life in politics, but before that, I had a 30-year career as an award-winning journalist. I was the voice of Arizona. If you're from Arizona, you know that. And I walked away from a very high-paying job in the corporate news during COVID-19 because I just wasn't willing to lie to the public. We had such lies going out toward the public. And I had to ask myself the question, was this huge paycheck that I was earning worth the cost of my soul? And the answer was no. And that is a question that a lot of people in the media right now and the bureaucrats in D.C. should be asking themselves at this moment. How much is the paycheck? How much is the money worth it? I'm very, very cynical when it comes to the government. It's just how I was raised. I grew up with Ronald Reagan as my president. Anybody else as a kid have Ronald Reagan? And remember his warning? His warning was the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And boy, was he right. But now the tables have been turned. And the 9 most terrifying words for the government are, we're from Doge and we're here to audit you. When Elon and the boys show up, I think they're a little nervous, aren't they? I prefer a hands-off government. Am I alone in that? Hands off. Unfortunately, our government has one hand around our throat, and we're finding out the other hand is in our pockets, and they're robbing us blind. And thanks to Doge, we've learned that our tax dollars are going to pay for luxury hotels for illegals in Manhattan, circumcisions in Mozambique, transgender operas in Latin America. It's terrible. It's theft. And Social Security benefits to 150-year-olds. The only 150-year-old I know is Joe Biden. I mean, this is, and apparently there's millions of them. There's even people that are over 150 that are allegedly getting all of this, these paychecks. So that's just the tip of the iceberg in Washington, D.C. It's really kind of like the D.C. creature is like an animal infested with ticks and parasites. From the work-from-home bureaucrats to the handouts and carve-outs and pork, the entire D.C. economy and the surrounding states thrive off of the freebies. But it's not free for us, the hard-working Americans. We're the ones funding this. Our money is lining these swamp creatures' pockets. We're paying off their friends. We're funding the fake news to broadcast this insane narrative across the globe. It's terrible. And knowing all of this and knowing how the odds have been stacked against us, it makes what happened on November 5th even more of a miracle, right? And we got to thank God for that. We got to thank God for that. We, the people, worked, we rose up, and we said enough is enough. We've had enough of this. And now, thanks to President Trump's radical transparency, we are learning some cold, hard facts about our government. I've never felt more betrayed by the government and, frankly, the media mouthpieces back in the fake news. This is the biggest scandal of our lifetime, the biggest fraud ever perpetrated on humanity, and any real journalist would be dying to cover this story. Unfortunately, we're still surrounded by too many fake journalists out there. Have you noticed they're grasping at their pearls, acting offended that the fraud is being uncovered? They're offended that we would question the bureaucracy that spent money trying to perform sex changes on monkeys while claiming that FEMA is too broke to help Americans. I'll tell you, the purpose of the mainstream media is no longer to inform us, it's to manipulate us. Have you been following the AP drama? Have you heard about this? It's known as the Associated Press. I kind of think of them as the anti-American propagandists. They're very, very mad about the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, they have no issue with swapping out Kiev for Kyiv or switching the spelling of the a country named Turkey. I didn't even know it was possible to spell that another way. But they have just been horrified by this name change. Remember, these are the same people who didn't want to call riots riots. They wanted to call them mostly peaceful protests. but they will die on the hill of refusing to call that big, beautiful body of water between Texas and Florida the Gulf of America, which is what it is, by the way. And don't get them wrong. They are not making some big principled journalistic stand. It's just fake controversy by a bunch of fake journalists. Where was the AP? And I don't know if they're back there. Where were you, AP, when moms and dads were losing their jobs for refusing to get the untested COVID shot? Where were they? It was crickets. Where were they when moms had to cover their babies' faces with masks? They weren't covering that. Where were they when the boys were in the locker rooms with girls? You know what they were doing? They were actually siding with the people who were perpetuating that insanity on us. They're criminal. They are. They still pretend the 2020 election was the most secure election in all of history. They never even questioned the impossibility. It's impossible that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. They're still sticking, you gotta give them credit, they're still sticking to their story. But what kind of journalist supports the hiding of 40,000 hours of video footage so that we can see for ourselves what really happened on January 6th? I still want to see that. Don't you want to see that video? They want to cover their narrative. They want to keep their narrative going. A real journalist would never support censorship. Every single time I've stood on this stage with all of you at CPAC, I've told you to turn them off, cancel your subscriptions, just tune them out. And it turns out it actually worked. We rendered the fake news worthless and useless. Only to find out that our government has been propping them up, keeping them alive with tens of millions of dollars of our tax money. It is absolutely sick. They propped them up. So the mainstream media is really just kind of a zombie media right now. There are a bunch of zombie media outlets who can only make payroll if our government funnels millions of dollars to them. It's obscene. Last week, these media zombies mulled around the idea of boycotting covering the White House to support the AP. Did you hear about their idea? They're going to boycott the White House to support the AP drama. That means no more CNN, AP, MSNBC in the press pool. I've got a message for the fake news. Don't threaten us with a good time. We will not miss your stupid questions, okay? Real journalists recognize it is a privilege to cover this moment in American history. It's a privilege. We are witnessing the return of our government to we the people. It is a historic moment with monumental consequences for America and the entire world. It's a golden age in America, and damn it, we deserve a golden age in journalism. And that is why I'm honored that President Trump has appointed me to lead the voice of America. VOA has been telling America's story to the world for 83 years this Monday. Now, sometimes the coverage has been incredible, and sometimes it's been pitiful. We are fighting an information war, and there's no better weapon than the truth, and I believe VOA can be that weapon. I told President Trump when he called me and asked me to lead the Voice of America that we will focus on accurate and honest reporting. It won't become Trump TV, although I think the ratings would be very high. It won't become Trump TV, but it sure as hell will not be TDS TV. You can find all the Trump derangement syndrome that you want over on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, 60 Minutes, The Washington Post, and The New York Times. The VOA is a soft power for America. Some people have suggested shutting it down. And with all of the corruption, I get it. I totally do, with all the corruption we're seeing. But I believe it is worth trying to save. with a relatively small budget, along with honest reporting, we can spread the values of freedom all over the world and prevent trillion-dollar wars. I'm for that. So as I transition to this next chapter in my life, can we still say the word transition, by the way, or has the woke mob ruined another word for us? There is still unfinished business that I have in my beloved Arizona. Arizona is a mess. It's a mess. Now, President Trump's victory was a blessing, but Arizona remains corrupt and captured. Elon Musk described the government, and I thought this was perfect, as not an apple full of worms, but just a big clump of worms. I know, someone just said, ooh, it is a gross thought, isn't it? Well, Arizona is the same, and we're going to deworm it. For the past 4 years, we have been in a fight, fight, fight mode. And now we are in a win, win, win mode. I like this mode. And I will say, people always say to me, Kari, you agree with the president on everything. Surely you have nothing you disagree with. There is one thing I vehemently disagree with President Trump on. We will never, ever get tired of winning President Trump. Never. So CPAC, are you willing to go to work, work, work to help President Trump reclaim America? We gotta work. Let's do it. This guy's ready. Let's do it. We're going to work, work, work so we can continue to win. I love you, CPAC. Thank you for the opportunity, and God bless each and every one of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism, Sebastian Gorka.
Thank you, guys. At ease. At ease. What a firebrand that is. She doesn't need to be director of the Voice of America. She is the Voice of America. Let's hear it for Kari Lake. I'm going to do something dangerous right now. I'm going to rely on technology. What did she say at the end about the one thing she disagrees with the president about? When I left my radio show 30 days ago, I asked my engineer to do one thing for me. And he said, yeah, I can do that. Do you want to hear my ringtone on my phone?
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning.
That's my ringtone. Before I talk about counterterrorism in the last 31 days in American history, can I just use that little technological moment to demand of everyone here and everyone watching that loves America, would you just please take a moment and celebrate? You did it! You made it possible to take back the Republic. Think of what we did. I thought if we're going to win, if the boss comes back, it's going to be insanity. It's going to be protest, the pink pussy hat cat, insanity. Where are they? Where are they? We crushed them, the patriots. 77 million. I've got two stories to tell you. That's what I'm going to do today. No big speeches, talking points, two stories. One on how much we're winning, and then one about what it's like to work for President Trump. I was in Yale yesterday. The belly of the beast. And I went there to give a speech on counterterrorism and artificial intelligence. And next to me were two panelists. I won't mention their names, but they're not of the 77 million, okay? One of them was an Obama appointee, okay? I spent the last 8 years, because I love America, because I chose America, because I am a legal immigrant to the United States. Me and Elon Musk, me and the First Lady, we chose this country. And for the last 8 years, they called people like me, who voted for President Trump, who worked for President Trump, fascists, Nazis, white supremacists. For 8 years. I kind of like, at the end, you just laugh about it. Yesterday, my fellow panelists at Yale, the whole time they kept saying, as Dr. Gorka just said. Well, that's interesting. I went from being a Nazi to being Dr. Gorka, and as he just said, they've surrendered because we won so bigly. So celebrate, smile every day, enjoy it, revel, revel, revel in what you have done. I was at Fort Bragg on Tuesday. This time is just like, I think I've been at work for about 3 years already. And I was at Fort Bragg. And indeed. And I was there to see our operators and the commander of Joint Special Operations Command. And the naval officer who was looking after me, I asked him, so when are we renaming the base? Because Pete, you know, Secretary Hegseth. And he showed me his phone. Sir, I drove in dark 30 this morning, and the Bragg sign was already taken down. Winning, winning, win. And Pete, if you're watching, Mr. Secretary, I want to be there with the screwdriver when we put it back, okay? Always brag, forever brag. Okay, so let's get to the real meat of this discussion. Wherever I go, I do a lot of public speaking, at least I used to, before I'm in a skiff for 12 hours a day working for the greatest national security advisor ever. Another Green Beret! Oh my gosh, how cool is that? Mike Waltz is the first Congressman Green Beret national security advisor. But wherever I used to go to speak publicly, I was always asked the same question. Wherever I was in America, whoever the audience was, whatever the topic they gave me, sooner or later, they always asked the same question. What's he really like? What's President Trump really like? Well, let me tell you a story of what he's really like. Second Thursday of the new Trump administration. We're less than 10 days in. National Security Advisor Waltz and myself and a military member of my team on the National Security Council are waiting to see the president to tell him something rather shocking. We walk into the Oval Office. We present, this is all declassified now, you can read about it, there's a big article in the Daily Mail. We presented him a map and some intelligence intercepts. And we said, Mr. President, there is an ISIS terrorist enclave, a cave complex in northern Somalia, which our government has been surveilling for more than a year and a half. And the president looked at me and Mike and said, what do you mean? We've been watching jihadis. And Mike said, well, yes, the former administration and Joe Biden didn't want to kill them. President Trump looks up from the Resolute desk and said, kill them. He got out his iconic big Sharpie pen and ticked the go box on the operational orders. and then we left the Oval. Less than 30 hours later, I am back with my boss, Mike Waltz, with my team members, underneath the West Wing in the Situation Room. It's like I'm in an episode of 24 or a Jason Bourne movie. And we were watching this video, play video. Now this was classified as I was watching it at the highest level. That is a leader of ISIS, responsible for training, recruiting, financing, and deploying jihadis across the world to kill Americans and our friends and allies, hiding out in a massive cave complex in northern Somalia. We are watching this live, but remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a movie. This is real life, and this is what President Trump did to him. My incredible team member had this declassified within 4 hours, after which President Trump put a social media post up that I would like to read to you. Last line, ladies and gentlemen. The message to ISIS and all others who would attack Americans is that we will find you and we will kill you. For 4 years, we placated our enemies. We gave billions of dollars to Iran. We opened our borders to anyone who wanted to come in and kill Americans. 100,000 fentanyl deaths in 1 year. In the last 30 days, we have designated the cartels as terrorists, and we have unleashed the hammers of hell on ISIS. So, all I want to say to you is President Trump's only motivation, the one he communicates to his National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, and to the whole team in the White House, is protect America. And that is exactly what we are doing. Whether you voted for him or not is irrelevant. He is such a patriot. He wants you to be safe and he wants you to prosper. That's the real Donald Trump. So, please keep the president in your prayers, his family, but also smile and be happy. You won. All right, guys. Let's get up.
We have been lied to. We have been deceived. And I've been saying for years, the moment that moms find out what's going on behind closed doors in their children's schools, there's going to be a national revolt. And that is exactly what you're seeing.
Well, what we have learned is that there are members of Congress who aren't really representing the values that we care about as moms.
When you start telling moms they're not your kids, they're going, what are you talking about?
The main reason why we've been losing is because we've been fighting principle with policy. We need to fight principle with principle, because when we do, freedom wins.
What America is going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years from now, you are deciding it today. Motherhood is the great unifier, and mothers of all political persuasions are uniting together to defend and protect their children. And Moms for America is giving them a powerful voice and platform to be able to do that. You are creating the future of our country, and if you don't like what we see, you have the power to turn it around. When my children and my grandchildren ask me, where were you when the Republic was hanging in the balance? I am going to be able to tell them I was right there, fighting to my last breath to save it. If you think that this mom-led revolution is just a little thing that's going to come and go, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President and founder, Moms for America, Kimberly Fletcher.
Is it not a great day in America? So I am so excited to be here with you guys when we're happy, because it really was really close to being really, really terrible. And now I wake up giddy every morning looking at my email going, what do we have today? It's awesome. But there's some things that we definitely should be celebrating. The confirmations, the gulag has been opened, the pardons have been done. Women are women again. And I was so honored and thrilled to be with the president and 47 of our moms and their daughters when he signed that, we should not have to say historic, executive order protecting women's sports and our safe spaces. Everything that we asked for, we're getting. And I am so grateful to be living at this time. But I want to make sure that we do not forget 2020. Because those 4 years, if the President of the United States, I love saying that, if he had gone from one term to another, he would not be anywhere near as effective or on target as he is now. And the things that he's getting done, he knows. We don't have the luxury of time, but he cannot do it himself. The calls that you made to make sure that the confirmations went through, that made a difference. And I have to say, I was thrilled to be able to get the text from RFK that said, we made his day when he came out of the hearing and went in and out of the hearing and had all those moms out there in their purple shirts and Moms for RFK. And it was awesome. So these guys are there. Things are happening. Children are being rescued. But there's a lot that we have to do, and we have to do it together because they cannot do it alone. I do want to make sure, though, and take a moment to thank Elon Musk, because prior to him taking over X, we had been permanently suspended from Twitter. No way to get our account back. And then this white knight comes galloping in and pushes a button and pays a bill and says, you're back. So thank goodness that we have a voice again. This mighty movement of moms has been incredible over the last 2-3 years, rallying moms, pulling them together, and being able to be a voice for common sense and truth, and promoting those principles and values that we hold dear. There are some things that we have that we're doing is pretty exciting, because the message of Moms for America, reclaiming our culture for truth, for family, for freedom, for the Constitution, those principles of values of freedom are resonating not just across the country, but around the world. And I have had all these people from these other countries who have said, we need a Moms for America in our country. I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. It's Moms for America. But we can have a Moms for Hungary, and we can have a Moms for Europe, and we are uniting all of those moms who have come to us. Big announcement. We are launching momsforfreedom.world to collect the moms, gather them together all over the world to stand for these same principles and values. We are a very solution-based organization, and so when we see a problem, we don't just talk about the problem, we come up with a solution. And when we find somebody that we can partner with that has a solution, we get excited. One of those partners is the Child ID program, and we are thrilled to be able to partner with the NFL and the attorney generals across the country, law enforcement, and standing to protect our kids with these child IDs. I carried these around in my pocket throughout the 1980s and 90s when I was raising my own children. I had 8 of them, so I had 8 little child IDs, so that if the unspeakable did happen, I had the information to provide to law enforcement to get my kids back into safety. With everything that's happening with child trafficking and sex trafficking, this is something positive that we can do to give parents a peace of mind. So we are launching this here today, our partnership with Child ID program.
There's a real threat to our country, and it's not going away. What we saw when all these people were flooding to us and all this crazy was happening, all these moms were asking, where is this coming from? I said, it's always been there. If you've seen The Lord of the Rings, the orcs were always underneath the ground doing their horrible, dark, evil deeds. It was when the ground ripped open and they all started flooding out that we were like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Do not think that the devil sleeps. They have just gone back underground. And this is our opportunity to make sure that ground never opens up again. So we have things that we can do, uniting and standing together. So the greatest weapon that we have right now in our arsenal is moms. And we have got to stand together, unite across the country and around the world to stand up, because the hand that rocks the cradle is not just a cute little saying, it's an immortalized fact. And if you want to turn this around and hold on to the values we hold dear, protect our children, defend our freedoms, restore the republic, we do it through the mothers of America. If you are a mom, if you are a grandma, if you are a woman of faith, stand up. Stand up right now, stand up. You are the heroes. You have stood strong. You went out and you voted. I need you to reach out to every mom you know, your daughters, your sisters, and you tell them how important that voice is. Because if we want to continue to win, we've got to get these moms who aren't voting out and voting. We've got to restore this love of liberty. Of all the things that is happening right now, the thing that I am most excited about is America 250. I was 10 years old in 1976, and I still remember what it felt like that year. It was like an explosion of patriotism, and everyone from Jack Daniels to Avon created some kind of commemorative piece, which now sits in my living room. That's okay. And I think I own stock in eBay. Anyway, but we can do this again. We have an opportunity to light a flame and start a resurgence of patriotism across the country. This is like a 50-year opportunity. We won't have it again. We need to share the story of America. We need to be celebrating everything that makes us unique and exceptional, because the world, I can tell you, as I'm talking around the world to these different countries, these people are coming and saying, we're looking to you. And I just spoke in Europe at Make Europe Great Again. And what every single representative from those countries said was, now we have hope. It is changing around the world. So I have some really good news. If you want to join this mom movement, we encourage you to do so. Come to momsforamerica.us. You can get on your phones right now and text MOMS to 53445 and be a part of this mighty movement of moms, because I'm going to tell you what. We have the Air Force. We have the Space Force. And now we got the Mom Force. And we're not done. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of The Benny Show, Benny Johnson.
What's going on, CPAC? Woo! What's happening? Welcome to the golden era. Look at these crazy Australians. Who let them in? They're from Australia. They escaped the concentration camps in Australia. It's amazing. The COVID camps, they got out. Good for them. Way to go. We're going to save Australia. But we're having a great time saving America, are we not? Let's frickin' go. Yes. CPAC, I'm so proud of you, by the way. Can we give you all, can you give yourself a hand? This is what CPAC looked like in 2020 versus 2025 right up here. Check it out. Oh, yes, baby. Oh, yeah. We call that a glow up on the internet. Who's more in favor of the chainsaw than the warmonger? Yes.
I'm allowed to show this because Mercedes Schlatt tweeted it, okay? All right? I freaking love them. Matt and Mercedes doing an unbelievable job, all right? Capturing the energy of the moment. That was so awesome with Elon. Was that a real chainsaw? Did it work? Did you like actually do it? Okay, great. All right, fantastic. The golden era. Just a reminder, you live in a red country. You live in a red country. Ladies and gentlemen, that's getting redder. This is the 2024 election. Look at that. This is the directional arrows of how much more red the country went. And it is so amazing to actually have this moment to celebrate with you. Because you know why the country went this way. The country went this way because we finally had a candidate that kept his promises. And here's a big one that was made at CPAC 10 years ago from our boy, Donald Trump, standing right on this stage, right in this location. And Donald Trump said something remarkable. Check this out. This is a 10-year-old clip. Whoops. Ooh. The CIA, ladies and gentlemen. There we go.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Ooh. Donald Trump. Is there a way to play that clip from the beginning? Can we do it one more time? Let's go.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can tell that Sean didn't even know what to say there, right? He's like, whoa. Donald Trump was ahead of his time. Donald Trump made a promise that he was going to fix the predators inside of our government. He was going to start exposing them, starting with Bill Clinton. And who do we have now as our Attorney General? Pam Bondi, the woman who made it punishable by death to go after a child in the state of Florida. Pam Bondi, and as of yesterday, Kash Patel, the man who has promised to expose the entire Epstein list. Woo, baby! We are cooking. You know who are the most scared people in America right now? Right there. There you go. Oh, yes. We're going to have some fun. You want to know? This is why they tried to lock up our boy, okay? This is why they tried. Can we have some fun? Are we allowed to have fun? Is that legal here? Okay, all right, let's go. This is why they tried to lock up our boy. But here's what we say as Christians. Any Christians out there? Any Christians? This is what we say as Christians. What do we say? We say what man intended for evil, God intended for good. They tried to lock up our boy, but what they ended up giving him was a rap album. The hottest banger of the summer. Rappers actually got this tattooed on them. When I saw them making murals of it, I knew it was game over. Okay? It's game over. Who knows somebody with a Donald Trump mugshot t-shirt? Who knows somebody with a Donald Trump mugshot tattoo? Trump's got the mugshot hanging in the White House. That's what you call a backfire, all right? What happened to the, speaking of murals, what happened to the Kamala murals? Oh, I'm sorry, Kamala. That was the day after the election. They were like, see you, lady! What man intended for evil, God intended for good. And we're making some new art, by the way, in the White House. We're switching up some of the paintings in the White House. You know, after they sent out the photographers, Joe Biden was sitting there like this. You know it. You know, it's like the guy. There he is. That's right. And it's like, you can't stop him. Joe Biden called us garbage. Did you hear that? Joe Biden called us garbage. What man intends for evil, God intends for good, right? That's right. Who's proud to be the garbage that backs President Trump? I'm proud of it. That's right. Look at our boy. Look at him. He's rocking it. The story here is that his staff told him he can take the vest off. And Trump's like, I love the vest. I'm keeping the vest. Ladies and gentlemen, they tried to kill him. They tried to kill him. The most evil thing you can do to somebody who believes that this is the #1 most witnessed miracle in humankind. The most witnessed. Billions of people have seen this miracle, physically watched this miracle. And what happened next? Trump goes back to the Butler rally. He does a rally right on that spot. Brings in Elon Musk. Elon Musk does like the jumping on stage. You used to see it, right? Too bad he didn't have the chainsaw for that. God intended it for good, actually. And God saved us. And I believe that we witnessed the most seen miracle of all time. And then Donald Trump went back to Pennsylvania and did something else remarkable. He went to... Our boy went to McDonald's and showed us what salty servant leadership actually looks like. When was the last time you saw... Just call it Donald's at this point, right? Just might as well just call it Donald's. Just let it go. Who's down? Look at him go. Look at this. You know this is why Joe Biden voted for him, because he fixed the ice cream machine. You know it. I love you guys. I love you guys. This is fun. Let's have fun, right? It's been amazing. We're witnessing miracle after miracle after miracle, like RFK eating McDonald's. That's how much Trump's changed it all. Dude, RFK, you got this guy. Who's proud of RFK, man? He's coming in there, making us healthy again. You got RFK rolling up. This is a dude who, like, was campaigning against Donald Trump, whose wife was, like, doing the same thing. And now he's serving in the administration. This is a miracle. It's so incredible to watch these moments. Tulsi Gabbard ran against Trump one election cycle ago. She was running for president against Donald Trump, and here she is doing the Trump dance on stage with Trump. What a timeline we're living in. Who's proud of Tulsi Gabbard, too? We got some Tulsi fans in here? Man. It's such a special moment. And so it's important to, like, center ourselves and remind ourselves what this is all about, all right? Any parents out there? Any grandparents out there? You grandparents, throw it up. Anybody? Any young kids who want to be parents out here? Any young people who want to? Look at this. Shout out to the young kids who want to be parents, right? They're like, we need you. And it's actually never been easier, right? Have you ever met a lib? Like, nobody wants to breed with those people. You know, it's like yellow teeth, purple hair, they smell bad, no deodorant, no showers, okay? They don't know what gender they are. It's tough. America first for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you parents out there. Let me know if I'm right. America first for me means saving this country for my children, my American children first. I'm going to fight for my American children, because a blessed generation is a generation that leaves the country better for their children, right? A cursed generation is one that destroys the country for their children and leaves them a mess. So that's what we're going to do together, right? We're going to save this place for our kids. That's what being really pro-life is all about, and that's what loving your country is all about. We just welcomed our newest 4th child, born on Inauguration Day, baby Whitaker, the golden boy. That's my little family. That's my motivation. Proud Christian, proud father, proud patriot, love this country so much. And ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris said she was going to run on joy. Yeah, right. In closing here, I'll show you what joy actually looks like. If you wouldn't mind, they were telling me backstage, they got some very fancy cameras. They said, feel free to use them. So I said, why not? If you wouldn't mind, if you feel compelled, I would like to show the entire country what actual joy looks like. I would love to do a big Trump dance with y'all. Let's go.
The things that make me mad about those other guys and all the things they do wrong, the one thing that I will not forgive them for is they're trying to steal the joy from this country.
Hold up.
Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Trump's iconic dance moves are sweeping the internet and winning him a lot of fans across the globe. Trump's dance moves were on show throughout and even after his election campaign. And it seems like everyone wants to hop on the bandwagon.
Young man, there's nothing to put you down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, yes, 'cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy, young man. There's a place you can go. I said, young man.
Thank you, CPAC! I love you!
And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for young men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. You can get yourself
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Editor at Human Events, Jack Posobiec.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new Republic. President Donald J. Trump has returned to office as he always said that he would. President Donald J. Trump was put there by the people like you, by the warriors of freedom, by the warriors for America and for the American spirit. Give yourselves a round of applause because you never gave up. You never gave up the fight. You never quit, no matter what they threw at you, no matter what they said about you. You, the people of CPAC, the people of America, rose up and said, we are done. We are done and we've had enough of that city right across the river, and we are targeting exactly the people of that city, and we are coming in and saying, guess what? Where our eyes are wide open and our hearts are full of the fire of the Lord God above, we are going to come to this town and we are going to restore freedom for the American people. And we witnessed a miracle 1 month ago when Donald Trump was returned to office. We absolutely did. And then when Donald Trump swore to uphold the Constitution, I saw so many people now saying, oh, but Donald Trump is here. He's violating the Constitution. He's shredding the Constitution. And I say no, Donald Trump is not violating the Constitution. Donald Trump is restoring the American Constitution. Donald Trump is the living embodiment of the American Constitution. Donald Trump is embodying the values of our founding fathers for the first time in a long time in Washington, D.C. And to all the champagne socialists as they cry into their lattes, I say to them, well, guess what? You're going to have a lot more time to sit around and cry into your lattes, because if you're a bureaucrat that's been going out there wasting the American taxpayers' money, guess what? You're going to be fired. If you're a crooked politician that's been stealing money from the American taxpayer, saying that you're sending it to Ukraine, but using it to line your own pockets, guess what? Kash Patel is coming for you, and you are going to be locked up. We're going to investigate all of it. And if you're an illegal migrant or someone who's not supposed to be here, let me tell you right now, and I'll issue a message. Pack your bags, because you're going home. This country was built by Americans, for Americans, and we will hand it off to our American children. And to the warmongers of the war machine, guess what? Your war machine is grinding to a halt. The wars will end and peace will break out across the world. And by the way, I've never seen the mainstream media and the Democrats more upset when we're ending wars and actually restoring peace in the world. It's as simple as that, because I'm sorry, World War III has been canceled. And just like the Minutemen at Lexington and Concord, just like the Patriots at Bunker Hill, and just like a Patriot at Butler, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump understands that we are in the tradition of those who fought for this country when this country was on the line. That's what all of you are. That's what this man has done. And look at the team that he's put together around him. Not only do we need to restore the republic, but we need to completely revamp and revitalize our national security in this country. And that's why when I look at this team that President Trump has put together, it's so incredible. You've got Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. You've got your CIA director, John Ratcliffe, who's now overseeing the largest layoffs at the CIA in 50 years. Oh no! Oh no! A director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who had the power and the temerity to call a lie for a lie and to tell the truth. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if wars can be started by lies, then peace can be started by truth. And then, as we saw yesterday, our new director of the FBI, Kash Patel, who's going to be overturning all of the tyranny that's come out of the J. Edgar Hoover building. He's going to be overturning it. We're going to go after the real criminals. We're going to go after the pedophiles. We're going to go after the traffickers. We're going to go after the illegals. We're going to go after the cartels. We're going to go after the foreign agents in this country. And yes, that includes the foreign agents that are working and have penetrated the United States government and the United States Congress. We will count every single dollar. And if there's money that shouldn't be in your pocket, oh, you are going away for a long, long time. That's what it means to restore justice in this country. That is the greatest effort, because President Trump came up and he found the destiny of the American people lying in the gutter. And he picked it up with his bare hands and he yelled, "Fight, fight, fight!" And the American people delivered their mandate to him and put it on his head. And as President Trump himself said just a few days ago, a man who saves his nation violates no law. That is the way forward in America. We have to understand our Constitution gave the sole elected executive power to the President of the United States. And I say to these crooked judges out there, to these local judges who say that they can block the executive from controlling the executive branch, guess what? You are going to have a very rapid meeting at the United States Supreme Court, and all of your power will be struck down. And you know something else? We're going to take a look at that impeachment clause as well. Because we're done, ladies and gentlemen, we're done. And I'm here to deliver a message to all of you. Because it's as simple as this: the American people are back. For my country, for my family, for your family. When President Trump was put to the test, to the ultimate test in Butler, Pennsylvania, we saw how he answered. Because the American people have woken up, and they've woken up for sure. Because, folks, it's as simple as this. President Trump said that when he was down behind that podium, and think of it, you've never seen President Trump like that before. You've seen him raise his fist before and punch it in the air and lead great crowds and great rallies. But in the moment just before that, what did you see? You saw President Trump on his knees with his hands clasped before him in prayer to Almighty God. And I believe in that moment, God spoke to President Trump and delivered him his ultimate mission. And that is the mission that you are seeing take place right now, every day in this new American republic. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness in this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after everything they have done to you, to stand. I can't tell you what the future will bring, ladies and gentlemen, but I will tell you that victory is not measured when Donald Trump wins an election. Victory is not measured when Donald Trump returns to office. Victory is only measured at the final day, when we pass on this republic to our children, and our children asked us, Mom, Dad, what did you do when America was on the line, when the revolutionaries were trying to take over and destroy this country? What did you do? And we will be able to tell them, children, we fought. We fought for you. We fought for this nation. We fought for God. We fought for Christ our King, and we delivered. And now it's going to be your turn, because that's how it is, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom is not bequeathed to us. Freedom is a responsibility that we must uphold every single day of our lives. And let me tell you something. You will never deny freedom to our children. You will never put our children in shackles again, because we have stood up and we are never going back to the way things were before. God bless all of you. God bless CPAC, and God bless the United States of America.
Robert Fico, four-time Prime Minister of Slovakia, a small, proud country in the heart of Europe. In May last year, an opposition activist tried to assassinate him for his policies. For politics based on the ideals of fight against fascism. For wanting an immediate end to the war in Ukraine. For the return of common sense and the barrier against wokeness, when he endorsed constitutional definition of marriage as the unique union of a man and a woman. For his grasp of reality when he vetoed the compulsory redistribution of illegal migrants among the European Union member states. For pursuing a sovereign Slovak foreign policy to all four cardinal points. For treasuring freedom of speech and rejecting the politics of single correct political opinion. For the first time, Prime Minister of the Slovak Republic is coming to CPAC.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Declassified with Julie Kelly on Substack.
Hello, CPAC. Hello, everyone. Well, I want to thank CPAC for putting me after Benny and Jack Posobiec. I did not have enough coffee this morning to match either one of them, but Anyway, hello everyone. It's funny that Jack preceded me because 2 years ago, we were on the stage together. Jack, myself, Amanda Milius, and Kash Patel. Never in a million years would we have thought that we would now be swearing in today Kash Patel as the FBI director. Amazing, amazing. And a year ago, I was here speaking about how Joe Biden and his Department of Justice was continuing to round up his political opponents and try to throw them in jail, including President Trump, and of course, hundreds of January 6th protesters. Never would I have imagined we would be here after President Trump being elected and then taking the really bold, courageous, and compassionate move of pardoning almost all of the J6ers. So I really want to commend the president. He deserves a lot of praise for what he did because that was not an easy decision to make. I also want to give a shout out to Matt and Mercedes Schlapp and CPAC because when no one would touch January 6th, even on our side, they gave me a platform early on to talk about what was happening to the J6ers in that prosecution. And without that platform, now it's cool. Everyone's like, yeah, free the J6ers, it's like the cause of the day. But it wasn't back then. And so I want to thank them and praise them also for giving me a platform and then J6ers over the past few years. So at any rate, I'm going to introduce my fellow panelists in a moment, but what an amazing time talking about a year ago what the Department of Justice was doing and now seeing it turn 180 degrees and, hopefully bringing the reform that is needed, but also cleaning house at the DOJ, getting rid of the very dangerous partisan operatives who LARP as government lawyers in that department, and then, of course, the FBI. So I'm very excited to see what Attorney General Pam Bondi and her team does, and, of course, Kash Patel and his team. They have a lot on their plate. They really need our support and prayers because they've got, I think, arguably the biggest task ahead of them in the Trump administration. So I'm going to bring out my friend, and we're going to have a discussion about January 6th, and he was the chief of the Capitol Police on January 6th. We have become friends over the past few years, so I would like to welcome my friend, Steve Sund. Want to go here?
Oh, no, I go.
Perfect.
Thank you very
Hi,
much.
Chief.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
Doing well.
So, Chief, why don't you tell a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of talk about January 6th and your experiences.
Absolutely. Great to be here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, CPAC, for allowing me to be here. 30-year law enforcement veteran, 25 and a half years, a little over 25 with the Washington, D.C. Police Department, where I handled all the major events, 2001, 2005, 9, 13 inauguration, 17, when I was up at Capitol Police. Done a lot of major events, a lot of barricades, a lot of tragic stuff, but love being a police officer up until January 6th.
So I think people are familiar with your work. Of course, you have your book, Courage. What is
Yeah, Courage Under Fire, the definitive account of January 6th. And I got to tell you, the current January 6th committee under Barry Loudermilk, and I'm glad Speaker Johnson has continued that investigation. They refer to it as the definitive after action because there's way too many politicized people's opinions, reports out there. I just want to provide the facts. It's much like I police. My thought on policing and politics is it shouldn't matter to you what political leaning I am, and it shouldn't matter to me what political leaning you are. during a traffic stop, a First Amendment activity, or if you call 911 for help, you should get the exact level of service no matter what. And that's kind of how I wrote the book. Just the facts.
So Steve and I started talking, I think, a few years ago, and we have become friends. We have our agreements and disagreements about the interpretation of January 6th and some of the things that happened, but we always are able to discuss those agreeably because I have tremendous respect for him. But what happened to Chief Sund is, despite his constant pleas to add more security for January 6th, of course, those were denied. But then the day after, on January 7th, Chief Sund became the fall guy who was, alongside President Trump, then blamed and accused of being responsible for what happened that day. And so we could talk a little bit about that now, looking back 4 years ago, how that all transpired, how you sort of were, especially Nancy Pelosi's fall guy for that, and then what has kind of happened since then.
So when you look at it and you look back, a lot of people may not realize this. They've heard Donald Trump offered up 20,000 National Guard troops. That most likely is the case. I do not doubt that. I can tell you definitively, I made 12 requests for federal support, including National Guard, both in advance and on January 6th while we were under attack, and was denied. It was only in the 13th request that I finally get approval at 2:09 p.m. on January 6th. So what I've come to learn since January 6th is January 6th was 100% preventable. If security on Capitol Hill hadn't been so politicized, and you know, when you hear Speaker Pelosi say she doesn't have a role in security on Capitol Hill, look at 2 U.S. Code 1970. Look at it before they changed it, because they changed it based on my testimony. It says specifically, I have to go to the Capitol Police Board. I'm the only chief of police in the United States of America that has to get permission to bring in support for my men and women. I went to the Capitol Police Board. They are required to then get concurrence. They have to go to congressional leadership. It's written in the law. Her responsibility is written in law. So when she said she doesn't play a role, she does. So when you look back on it, whether they had approved my request, and the current, the latest report from Congress said if Chief Sund's request had been approved, the perimeter most likely would have never been breached. 1. 2, intelligence. I've done major events in Washington, D.C. for many, many years. I've dealt with the FBI, I've dealt with DHS. They'd put out joint intelligence bulletins, they'd have briefings, they'd have call the chiefs into the SCIFs, they'd do a conference call, they'd make sure everyone has the same intelligence. Intelligence was handled differently, especially even within my own unit. If intelligence had been accurate, I would have gotten support from the Capitol Police Board, I would have gotten support from leadership, and again, January 6th wouldn't have happened. We had many opportunities to get out of the in front of this train.
I think, too, we've talked about, and you've discussed during congressional testimony and also just interviews, what are some of the things that you've learned over the past 4 years that you didn't know about that day? For example, not being alerted about the presence of the FBI informants. You know, we talked about not getting access to intelligence, the presence of undercover agents from numerous law enforcement agencies that you weren't really privy to. So I guess, what have you learned, like what surprised you the most as these revelations have come forward, either congressional testimony, the trials, media reporting?
Well, two things that I think surprised me the most is, one, just how adverse some people up in Congress were to the truth coming out. People may not realize this. When they had the first hearing, February 23rd, 2021, think about that. It's only a couple of weeks after January 6th. They didn't want me to testify. I actually had to go and request through the Rules Committee that I be allowed to testify. I told them I will be there in person, I promise you. And sure enough, if you look at it, I'm the only one that showed up in person. Everyone else was videotaped in. The other aspect was, again, the domestic terrorists that we now, people are saying, oh, the FBI was tracking domestic terrorists. That, again, started the day after my testimony, February 24, 2001. Jill Sanborn testified and said that the FBI was tracking domestic terrorists coming to the January 6th committee. Now we know from GIO reports and various other reports that as of January 6th, they were tracking, I think, approximately 19 to 26 domestic terrorists coming to Washington, D.C. That sure as hell would have been something that I'd like to know about as a chief of police of a Capitol Police, that they were coming. And when they talk about tracking domestic terrorists, I mean, they're tracking them with people. They're not tracking them with, like, the janitorial crew. They're tracking them with people. So it's not unusual for undercovers to be in the crowd. You're talking about major events in Washington, D.C. It's probably a SOP, but it would have been great to know that.
So a little bit your experience with the January 6th Select Committee, who now, of course, all of the members and all of the staff were pardoned by Joe Biden. So no one can be held accountable for the destruction of evidence, tampering with witnesses such as Cassidy Hutchinson, and other malfeasance that we know actually happened with that committee. So, but they didn't really want the truth from you either.
Yeah, I had a very interesting interaction with them. One, it became clear early on that their focus wasn't trying to get to what the American people want to know, what really happened on January 6th. Their focus was predetermined outcome. It was to focus on basically 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. How was Donald Trump responsible for this? I went in there. I had, you'd think the chief of police, they'd want me testifying in public. Absolutely not. When we had our interview, it got very contentious. When I repeatedly tried to refer them back to my responsibility to go through the Capitol Police Board to get assistance for my men and women and how I did that in advance of January 6th, they wanted no part of that. They did not want you, the American people, to know that I had gone out of my way to try and bring in resources to protect the United States Capitol. And then it got, like I said, it got contentious. It was a 6-hour interview. You didn't see a word of that on TV. That was, I thought, was concerning. That made me realize real quick that they weren't looking for the truth. And then when you watch, a lot of people are like watching some of the videotape, and I've heard this brought up that, hey, what's going on with some of the sound that was imported on some of the internal videotape? The cameras inside the Capitol do not have sound. They imported other riotous sounds, other demonstrations, other riots into that. Imagine if any chief of police in the United States of America had changed dash cam videos, body-worn cameras videos, and imported separate audio. What do you think would happen? You'd lose all distrust. So when you look at Biden pardoning the January 6th committee, one, committees on Capitol Hill already have certain levels of protection. That should be sufficient. When you provide them a pardon, you just delegitimized anything they were doing. Anybody that had concerns for the credibility, you just legitimized those concerns. So I think that was I think that was a disservice, but their focus wasn't getting to the truth.
Well, we have a minute to go. I told you this would fly by. So, but I think your work and your honesty and, yes, your courage in speaking out about the committee and everything that you saw has really helped unravel the January 6th narrative. I think we're going to learn a lot more. Of course, Barry Loudermilk now has a permanent subcommittee under House Judiciary. Attorney General Pam Bondi is also announced that she will be looking into the abuses of the FBI against
phenomenal.
the J6 defendants. And so I think we are going to find out a lot more in addition to what we've already learned.
I think so as well. And I got to tell you, I miss law enforcement. All the law enforcement I've talked to from FDLE speaks very highly of new U.S. Attorney Bondi. So look forward to seeing what she's going to do. But thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, you want to do this?
Yeah, let's get it. I'll come around this way. Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.
Today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MKUltra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Freedom, sovereignty, prosperity. The Patriots for Europe Foundation is on a mission to make Europe great again. Globalist elites have led Europe into a dead-end street. Violent crime has surged because of mass immigration. The Green Deal has put the future of the European economy at risk. Fake NGOs and the massive bureaucracy in Brussels are interfering in our democracies. Patriots must take action. We bring analysis. We organize debates. We build the network of patriots to challenge the woke narrative head on. Patriots for Europe Foundation.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Being woke is easy when it was just a call to defund the police or end capitalism, right? It's a little different when your fellow ideologues start cheering for your beheading. And here's a question. This next video, does this look like London to you? The pro-Hamas protests making for a very interesting political moment at Harvard, a university recently ranked the worst school for free speech in America. What would Harvard do in a moment like this, we all wondered? A school that will expel you for using the wrong pronoun and making a pink-haired trans girl cry. Well, in this moment, Harvard just miraculously transformed into free speech absolution. Apparently at Harvard, there's nothing offensive at all, even though everything's offensive at Harvard. There's nothing offensive at all about celebrating the murder of 1,000 people, including a whole bunch of kids.
As I think it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
We're from the government. We're here to help.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
President Trump is back in the White House. Donald Trump won the presidency. Donald Trump has taken back America.
I actually started quite a while ago in CPAC, and I enjoyed it so much that I came back for a second one, then a third, then I said, what the hell, let's run for president. Matt said, it's like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He says, you should run for politics. He's the one who said you should run for the presidency of the United States.
It is my honor to introduce to CPAC 2017 our president, Donald Trump.
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes, who have been fantastic friends and supporters, and so great when I watch them on television defending me. Nobody has a chance. I love this place. Love you people. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you. We know that there are still more records to be shattered, new summits to be scaled, more triumphs to be realized, and more amazing history just waiting to be written. The American adventure has only just begun. God bless America, and we will see you next year. Thank you very much. You never stop fighting for America, and I will never, ever stop fighting for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it takes a village, people. The MAGA Moolah Meltdown. Please welcome CPAC Senior Fellow, Mercedes Schlapp. Senior Advisor, United Against Nuclear Iran, Heba Willoth. CEO, United Against Nuclear Iran, Ambassador Mark D. Wallace. And CPAC Chairman, Matt Schlapp.
Where's Michael? What kind of music is that?
I don't know.
Is that Iranian music?
No, but we should play one.
Hey, was Benny Johnson not great?
That's great.
I saw some dance moves out there that were pretty, that was pretty good. Did you get to see that? Benny got the whole crowd dancing.
I'm not surprised. I mean, he's such a charmer.
And tonight, just so you know, I don't know where Natasha Owens is. She's probably she's getting another dress made.
She's got a special dress. It was like
she's got a special song for you guys tonight. So anybody who's going to the dinner, and if you're not going to the dinner, make sure you watch. I know C-SPAN's got this. X has it. Ben Shapiro was showing this, live streaming this on the Daily Wire yesterday.
Right.
So many ways to get this content, so you make sure you watch. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So I'm in a little bit of a vulnerable position today because
I don't know if that's a good thing, Schlapp.
I've known
Mark.
I've known Ambassador Mark Wallace. I choke on that because, you know, when your friend has an august title like that,
Never used it before.
Ambassador, whatever. But, you know, it is kind of, I mean, Ambassador to the UN, so it's that takes it down a couple notches, actually, when you say UN. But the, sorry, it's just the way it is.
You're vulnerable here, Schlapp.
I am vulnerable because he's known me a really long time. Priscilla O'Shaughnessy's here. I know she's going to be mad at me for saying it, from my hometown of Wichita. Priscilla's known me since I'm like 18, 16, 17, something like that. So you could probably learn some bad stuff from Priscilla if you
Matt, you're really telling your age right now, okay?
And Wallace is in the same position. But, Mark, it's a great honor for Mercy and I to have you and your beautiful wife. You guys do such amazing work. You had me give me a very special invitation to go to the 80th anniversary at Auschwitz recently. I went to Poland. Mr. and Mrs. Balaban and Henry, I went to Poland, your home country, even though you're Americans. And a beautiful place. We met with amazing people. It was a very moving trip. Thanks for including me. But to have you here is very special for Mercy and I. You're a great friend. The work you do, you've done behind the scenes and prominently to try to make sure that we defang Iran and Hiva, from your point of view, give the Iranian people a shot. It's the mullahs who are in the way, just like the same problem we have in Cuba, the same problem we have in China. So thanks for being here.
Guys, thanks for having me. And I have to do a little something to start this.
Oh, no.
Indulge me because
no.
it's a sentimental thing. I have to get some real thank yous out of the way and talk about what this is, because I've known them a very long time, and I've seen this grow, and I've seen what it's meant to the Schlapps. And it's very moving for me to work with them. They're very dear friends of mine. But first we have to say, I have to acknowledge and tell a story. I want to acknowledge the government of Poland, Prime Minister Tusk, my friend Radek Sikorski, and the Polish delegation. The president of Poland's coming as well. And there's an entire Polish contingent here. Guys, stand up just for 1 second.
And the Poles here. You stand up.
Every Pole.
Come on.
Every Pole.
Who's Polish? Stand up. Come on.
No, the delegation.
There's
please,
more.
The entire delegation, stand
there we
up.
Go.
Because the reason why that's so important is Poland is here in so many ways, and their government is so wonderful. And I had a crazy caper to exfiltrate a drone out of Ukraine and work with our allies, the Poles, to sneak an Iranian drone out of Ukraine and fly it on a Polish C-130, and it's displayed here. They're great allies. And before the president even did it, they are the biggest NATO defense spender in the world. They spend nearly 5% already, and they are really the poster child of what we want a NATO ally to be about. And it's so great to be here, and all the Poles to see them here. It's really exciting. Now, I was talking in the green room. It's, you know, the Schlapp green room, I guess. And I was talking to the Foreign Minister Sikorski and Amanda McKinney, who's here, and I was talking Iranian drones and things, and this is what CPAC's about. All of a sudden, it turns out that Poland, and I didn't know this, is one of the great apple producers in the world. And Amanda, wherever she is here, produces incredible apples in Washington State. So immediately, the CPAC discussion in the green room that was about Iranian drones turned into a apple diplomacy, and that's what this place.
Which could have easily turned into terror, so it could have gotten really fun, right?
But it's a testament to what CPAC is about. And, you know, having known them, it's really what the Schlapps are about, because you can have a conversation with real people and important things and the binds that tie us together. And Matt and Mercy, I've seen you, and I knew you before you were Matt and Mercy. And to see that and the things that you do for our country and for all of us, you know, I just think we should give them an applause. I have to do that. I've known them a long time. But to Matt and Mercy, I mean it. You know I mean it. I'm totally hokey.
Okay, you're going to make me cry. Let's get going.
No,
I think
true.
he just wants to get invited back.
I want to talk about tough things.
Hiva, you married this guy who is this anti-Iranian regime activist, anti-extremism activist. We have a lot of commonality. Your organization doesn't really get involved in politics. You're really involved in national security.
We are.
We get involved in politics, but there's a lot of crossover here. There's so much that we have in common because at the end of the day, if it's not about human rights, God-given rights, what is it all about? And you must have this amazing experience of seeing Donald Trump's maximum pressure campaign that your husband had a lot to do with building, then this 4-year hiatus, which is everything to subsidize this radicalized regime, and now we're back to trying to bring the regime, not the people, the regime to its knees by depriving them of everything they could possibly need, including customers for their petroleum products. How does it feel to be back on the right track?
It brings hope back. Let me tell you, the 4 years, it felt like a betrayal. It felt like a betrayal. All the money that President Biden gave back to the Iranian regime, not a single one of it went to the people to do anything good for this country. People suffered under, continue to suffer under this regime. This regime kills its own people, kills its young women, young men, that all they want is freedom, basic freedom of just not. How threatening is my hair right now to you? A young woman died. Well, yeah, but a young woman dies on the street for just showing a bit of her hair. And President Biden did not support any of it. And to me, that was unacceptable. And thank God that President Trump is back, because this regime is scared. Let me tell you, all of its proxies are brought down to its knees. It is, if any change is going to happen, it is now, and this is the time. And I am so thankful for the maximum pressure being back on and all option against this regime. Because
Hiva, you grew up in Iran. You spent time there. Yeah. Your family had to flee this regime. I mean, how difficult was it for your family to pick up and have to leave everything to come here to the United States?
Well, your family knows something about that.
Right,
too.
both of you.
Yeah,
I mean,
both of us.
Remember, we have a Cuban American and an Iranian American sitting next to one another. It's an amazing testament to our country that you two are here and can talk about human rights and freedom. Because I know them, obviously, both really well, and their experience across the world is so similar. You know, and there's hope now. But you know.
And where we have come this far, this country has provided so much opportunity, and just to the freedom and the opportunity that has brought us. I mean, I would have never thought I would be sitting here with you guys, with this amazing audience, talking about President Trump. And to me, this is a dream come true. And
Mercy, how long was your father in prison?
This is very near and dear, because what you see. And, we had this conversation yesterday with the Jewish families, the families of the hostages, of the tragedy of really how horrific governments can be, terrorists can be, and for us in the United States, we don't comprehend it 100% because we live in this great country. But when I look at my father, who is now 89 years old, who, back in the early 60s, when he did have to confront the communist regime, and he was put in a situation where, he was building his businesses, he was in the prime of his life, to have to turn everything over to the communists because they came in and said, give me your keys to your house, give me your keys to your businesses, and then he's left with nothing. And how many countries have so many people, millions and millions of people, who have lost everything in the hands of these horrific authoritarian regimes and these communist regimes? And so for my father, he was thrown into jail after trying to overthrow the Cuban government, and was in jail for literally close to 8 years, where he was thrown into solitary confinement, naked in a dark room for 2 to 3 months at a time, where he was tortured, where he would hear the cries of his friends being executed. It is horrific what the communists have done to destroy so many people, so many families in the world. And when you ask my father, are you Cuban? Are you American? He proudly says, American. I am American. I stand for freedom. And you, my daughter, and you, my grandchildren, and you, my son-in-law, you have an obligation to protect this country. You have an obligation to protect the freedoms that are fragile in America. And that is my message to every single one of you in this audience.
You know, let me just say one thing there. So, Agnieszka, I often say, well, you're Polish. You correct me. You say you're American.
American.
When I ask my father-in-law, or if I slip up and say he's Cuban-American, he puts his hand on my arm and says, I'm an American. This is a very, very important difference. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage. But as Mark Levin, who is one of a real hero to all of us, says, we're not a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of former immigrants. That's a really important distinction.
You know, her family, may her father rest in peace, Mir, he was a wonderful man. He said the same thing to him. I knew him before he passed. And he said, you know, I'm an American. And her father and her mother gave up everything in Iran to move her and her sisters here to get a better life. Her mother couldn't speak English and still struggles with it because she had a harder time, came a little later, but they wanted a better life for their daughters. And that's an incredible experience, all in the face of oppression. And look, you know, because of our friends, the Poles and the United States, President Trump, our friend Rick Grinnell, we were able to bring this Shahed 136 drone.
Which everyone can go down to our CPAC Central and go see it. It's actually here, the first time on American soil. Right. It's at CPAC. Go see this killing machine. And it's a good, important reminder to this regime, this barbaric, murderous regime that intends to tell you that it stands for some kind of godly principles. What an abomination they are. It's important for them to know that due to Mark's good work, that we're on to them, that we are going to make sure that we stop them, and that they should be, we said yesterday, around the globe, all the right people are sweating.
That's right.
They're worried. And that's part of the maximum pressure campaign, is to make sure that they understand that if they take steps against America, against Israel, against Jewish people, against Christian people, against our allies, against the stability of civilization, I believe, I'll speak for him, even though I don't represent him, I believe President Trump and our allies will take the steps needed to make this stop. And that starts with Israel getting rid of Hamas. It starts there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, it's very rare when you can look into the eyes of a despotic regime, because they usually lie, and the propaganda they put out is to tell you that they aren't who they are. But that drone downstairs, that Shahed 136, is the ubiquitous terror weapon of mass destruction across the Middle East.
There it is, right there on your screen.
There it is, and we have it downstairs. It's been used against Israel. 3 American service members died on the sharp end of that because of, in my opinion, failed policies of the previous administration. Numerous service members have been injured. It's attacked our allies in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, across Syria and Iraq, and shipping in the Bab el-Mandeb in the Red Sea, even in the Persian Gulf. And of course, they've sent over 6,000 of these drones into Russia to attack Ukraine. And it is an indiscriminate terror weapon that kills innocent women and children. So every time you see an Iranian official, and we list them, say this propaganda, and they smile at you, the smiles that oppress their families, you'll look at this drone, and that's the true face of oppression. That drone is what they really are.
So and thanks for bringing it here. I think it's important. The other person who was going to be with us today was the Crown Prince of Iran, who played us. You know, Mercy and I sometimes pinch ourselves because we have the most fascinating meetings at our CPAC headquarters. And he came to our headquarters, and we had this great conversation about his view for the government of Iran to be a secular government, and the government of Iran that would recognize the state of Israel, a government of Iran that would rid itself of this concept of fueling and feeding and funding terrorism. He's an important voice, and he wanted to be with us here today.
Right, and we heard, we hope, he indicated his mother, the great Shabanu, is sick, and he had to return to Paris.
The Shah of Iran's widow is alive.
Yes, and apparently she was ill, and we wish her the best. And I'm personally disappointed that I didn't get to see His Royal Highness, and I know he would have been a valuable addition. But we have to figure out ways to support the Iranian people, just like we supported the Cuban people, because these are the oppressed. Any ideas?
You know, we've been thinking about this.
Should we do it? Should we make some news?
Yeah, I think we should make some news. Why don't you make the news?
Oh, man.
Mercy, you're okay with the news, right?
Yes.
Because I always have to...
I'm not having another baby.
This is why...
I would love to, but we're...
Oh, she says that until someone puts a little baby in her arms, and then she starts having...
I could be a grandmother before.
This is why...
This might be harder than actually raising a baby. Let me just say.
This might be harder.
But it's worthwhile.
We might have opened up a bad topic. But
it is worthwhile, though.
I will say this is one of the reasons why we're here as couples, too, because I kind of saw how you guys operated at the museum that you're opening up on the corner of Auschwitz, at the corner of the camp where this horrible criminal lived, who was the camp
Commandant. You watched the movie The Zone of Interest, the Huss house, Rudolf Huss. We don't like saying his name. I'll only say it one time. But the man that institutionalized the industrial-scale slaughter of Jews and other people, Poles, Romans.
A lot of Poles.
Yeah, a lot of Poles. But millions of Jews went to their death looking at that house. It is the true face of evil. We managed to put and you were there, we put a mezuzah on the front door of that house after 80 years.
Yeah, and I got to touch it. It was incredibly meaningful.
It was so interesting when we put that mezuzah on. Sometimes you just do things and you don't realize. And we put it on that door. We observed the halakhic principles in doing it, and we just did it. And everybody, Jews, non-Jews alike, wanted to go touch that mezuzah, and it's become just a real rallying point.
It's an evil place.
It's a wonderful U.S.
I will say it's an evil place. I felt evil there. I didn't like being there. So it's very important that we take evil places and try to, make them more holy.
We got to teach. We got to teach the people. We got to teach the people that these tragedies, these genocides, they happen. They have destroyed communities. They have destroyed families, and it must stop.
So let me just say one thing. I want to just say this one thing. It's really important. So we had a great tour guide at Auschwitz, and I'd never been to a concentration camp, a death camp, a work camp. On purpose, I hadn't gone. Because I already know I think it's terrible, and it upsets me so much to even be there. But one of the things I learned was the initial intent of Auschwitz was to kill political prisoners in Poland. So many Polish people were killed who were trying to stand up to authoritarianism. Is this right? This is right. And this is the story for America. I'm not comparing it to that. I'm simply saying the lesson I learned was, whether you're talking about people that are persecuted by the government, we've had this whole conversation with Julie Kelly here, what happened to people that felt like the last election had fraud, and we have all these J6 victims. You have all these people who couldn't even speak their mind, that had their Facebook page canceled, while the mullahs have their Facebook page, Donald Trump and others people have their Facebook page taken away. The lesson of all of that is, when you snuff out political speech, that's just the beginning, and it can lead to even worse things. So you're right, sweetheart, we have to really understand our history. So part of our understanding our history is calling out the bad guys now, right? Absolutely. Ambassador Wallace?
Absolutely.
So how do we do that?
Well, I think one of the things we have to do is think about how we can help the oppressed, right? How do we rally that? And look, we've operated when the Crown Prince was supposed to be here today. We can do something to try to help organize that diaspora. It's a diverse diaspora, different people, different competing influences. And look, like any diaspora, Mercy, the Cuban diaspora, there's a lot of, at times, friction. But if we can do something to show that we stand with these diasporas, as diverse as they are, and bring them together in one roof, the moment the unity is shown against these despotic regimes, it's the first day of the last day of those regimes. So what do you think?
I think we should look at the title of this conversation, I'd like to have a MAGA mullah meltdown.
A MAGA mullah meltdown? A CPAC Iran in exile?
I think a CPAC Iran in exile. What do you guys think?
I think...
Would that cause, there we go, that would cause a meltdown.
Right, we could invite all the Iranians, leaders and groups who all at times have friction, but are all united against this regime. And I know, Matt, you've done so many things with CPAC, but that would be an incredible way to show the people of Iran that their future might be just around the corner.
What would your dad think about having a MAGA mullah meltdown?
It will be a big task, but it is worthwhile, and we have to
Let's do it.
That's the only way.
Will you guys join us?
You guys got to show up.
Don't worry, we're not going to Tehran.
Yeah, we'll do it here.
We're going to go someplace closer. All right, thank you all.
I will not be participating if it's Tehran.
That's right, not doing that. Thank you all for being here.
So much.
Thank you for bringing this weapon of mass destruction. Make sure you go down to the CPAC Central to check it out. And we got so much more going on today, so just don't leave the room for very long at one time, okay? God bless you all. Thank you all for being here.
Welcome to CPAC. At Great American Media, we celebrate what matters most: faith, family, and country. Today, we invite you to experience storytelling that uplifts, inspires, and reflects the values we all cherish. PureFlix is your home for entertainment without compromise. With faith-driven movies and series, we bring you stories that strengthen hearts, uplift spirits, and honor what truly matters. And on Great American Family, where faith leads, where stories inspire. Welcome home. Whether it's Christmas all year long, heartfelt romances, or movies that bring families together, we are here to make you feel at home. At Great American Media, our foundation is quality. Our promise is to always deliver entertainment that aligns with your faith and values. Thank you for standing with us as we stand for faith, family, and country. Enjoy CPAC. And remember, when you choose Great American Media, you choose entertainment that lifts you up. Join us and experience the best in faith and family entertainment.
Wherever human freedom is under attack, in courtrooms, legislatures, and the public square, we stand ready to defend it. This is why Alliance Defending Freedom exists.
Supreme Court victory for a Christian woman who was taken to court for standing firm in her beliefs.
The First Amendment follows a golden rule. If we want to protect speech for ourselves, then we need to protect it for others.
A video released this week by ADF International has attracted over 34 million views and even attracted comment from Elon Musk. It concerned a pair of Swiss parents who've had their child taken away from them because they objected to her gender transition.
We're not just here to stop the erosion of liberty for this moment alone. We are here to keep the door open for the gospel. And when the gospel does its work, truth doesn't just hold its ground. It advances. It sets people free for generations to come. This is our mission at Alliance Defending Freedom.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MKUltra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because
We fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like, Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Mom-Led Revolution.
Hungary. CPAC Hungary, the Hungarian version of the annual super conference of hard-right U.S. Republicans, has begun in Budapest.
Greece authoritarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban.
CPAC is doing a special event from Hungary in May.
CPAC has made its way to Europe for the very first time. The gathering, frequented by many of the GOP's leading fringe voices, is underway right now in Hungary.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chairman CPAC Hungary, Miklos Santo.
Dear friends, fellow patriots, what a time to be alive. For a wonderful month, Donald Trump has been back in the Oval Office, and we can all breathe free again. And would you look at Elon Musk and Doge? I have never seen so many liberal tears in my life. And I'm from Hungary, you know, the island of freedom of Europe. It is our national sport to make the liberals cry. But of course, you know that. You know a lot about Hungary, don't you? But why? It's because our Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. He is a loyal friend to President Trump and to CPAC, and loyalty is a true conservative value. Prime Minister Orban also spoke at CPAC Dallas in 2022 and has been the keynote speaker at every and each CPAC Hungary so far, and CPAC Hungary will be a joyous occasion this May again. Because 2025 began tremendously. The Trump tsunami has swept the Dems out of office, and there is a revival of the right on the old continent, led by Prime Minister Orban and the Patriots for Europe. But dear friends, allow me to recall a Hungarian saying. It is in victory that one must remain most humble and have a realistic view of the world, I would add. We may have won a famous battle in the struggle for the soul of the West, but the fight against the woke is far from over. Until Donald Trump came to your rescue, the United States hadn't had a strong leader for almost 2 generations. And sadly, the same applies to Western Europe. And the lack of leadership and vision has led to a systematic collapse on an economic, political, and security scale. The disease has spread to every and each level of our societies, but its roots are cultural, and culture is a matter of national security. When Elon Musk let the Doge loose at USAID headquarters, he was targeting the root cause: corrupt, malicious, Marxist propaganda poisoning the well of our civilizational greatness. But USAID was only one of the heads of the woke hydra. The left's geopolitical manipulation machine also operates through Hollywood, Brussels, the UN, the Washington swamp, the big media, the Ford, the Gates, the Rockefeller foundations, and of course, George Soros' Open Society network. Just imagine that good old Georgie spent $1.4 billion to meddle in Europe. The woke machine assimilated bureaucracies and policy making at all levels of government. It launched a concerted assault on the family, Christianity, and the sovereignty of nations. And the establishment has been more than happy to play along as puppets of the globalist deep state network. So do you know why they hate Trump, Orban, or Milei so much? Because they refused to submit, wouldn't assimilate, and can't be destroyed. And now it turns out that they were right all along. Just one, but hugely important example. Both President Trump, and Prime Minister Orban have been pushing for an end to the bloodshed in Ukraine, going against the progressive warmongers. And now, with the new sheriff, your new sheriff in the White House, peace negotiations have finally begun, and it's really shocking to see supposed pacifists whining that the war might be over. So the lesson is: strong leaders make peace, weak leaders make war. And our civilization is not lost as long as such visionary and charismatic leaders can rise in the Americas and Europe. But in order to cut off every single head of the woke hydra and break the great geopolitical manipulation machine of the left, we must unite our forces. You conservatives, we respect the past, so we should write the future too, and so we will win, but we win so that we can fight for more. Fight for normality over green jihad, fight for the family, the best thing humanity invented so far, over wokeness, fight for political leadership over bureaucratic dictatorship, fight for national security over open society, and fight for peace, securing life for future generations over the ideology-driven bloodshed of war. Life is much more than a struggle for self-preservation. And what it makes it more is precisely what it makes it truly beautiful and meaningful to us. Our families, our children, our dignity, our freedom, our faith, and our country. That is the message I came here to share, and that is what CPAC and CPAC Hungary is all about. We really very much hope you join us again this May in Budapest at CPAC Hungary. Let us fight together, and the age of patriots will dawn. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, let us be confident that the best is yet to come. God bless you, God bless America, God bless Hungary, to God alone glory. Thank you very much.
I switched.
I switched.
I switched.
I made the switch to Newsmax.
We start this morning in Washington, where all eyes are on the White House. I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Have you made the switch?
You bet I did.
My whole family switched.
Everyone is making the switch. I did.
I did.
I switched, and it made all the difference. It made all the difference.
Have you made the switch? You should.
Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
America is under attack. Our families are being crushed under the politics of a radical agenda. But moms have had enough. We are standing up and we are fighting back.
This is our battle. This battle is every bit as important as the Revolutionary War because we fight for the same thing.
Moms for America is a national movement of moms reclaiming our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I think Moms for America is exactly on track and is doing the right thing for the future of our country and our children.
Like, Moms for America is going at the heart of the issue.
I want to go on the record and say I'm for moms, I'm for America, and I'm especially for Moms for America.
But I am honored to join Moms for America today as we speak out against the horrific mandates.
With a national network of over 500,000 mothers, Moms for America is one of the fastest growing movements of women in the country.
The most dangerous place in all of nature is between a mama bear and her baby cub.
We are the change. No matter what, no matter where, and no matter how difficult the obstacles are that are facing us and our families, we will not give up and we will not give in.
So if not now, then when? If not you, then who?
Welcome to the Momland Revolution.
Institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MKUltra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
Creators, it's time to take control. With Bursts, you create impactful content in seconds. Powered by blockchain, your content and earnings are protected, transparent, and yours to control. Play TV isn't just a platform. It's a community of creators building a new future together. Your freedom starts when you press play.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Inclusion Delusion, Hollywood Survivors. Please welcome President and CEO, Great American Media, Bill Abbott, actor and filmmaker, Dean Cain, and your host, co-host of Morning on Merritt Street, Fanchon Stinger.
Wow. Which one?
That's her.
I know I'm going in the middle. There it is.
Well, hello, CPAC. Wait a minute. I don't know if I heard that right. Hello, CPAC. Well, we are delighted to be with you this afternoon, but there's one thing we're going to get started and declared right off the bat. CPAC, revival is here. Woo! Revival is here. I know so many of you, myself included, have been praying for revival. We have been praying for our country. We have been praying to return back to the Christian Judeo values that our country is founded on and those great freedoms that we all are blessed to enjoy. So today, we are delighted and honored to talk with you about where we've come, where we are, and what God has for this country in the future. Amen? All right, let's get started. Well, Bill and Dean, it's surreal to be able to sit here and have a conversation with both of you because both of you are so integral in terms of this journey we have all been on. Bill, I want to start with you. We know you have a stellar background. You have led the faith and media movement with your positions throughout the years. Now you're with the Great American Media Corporation. You're leading that. There's so many projects that you have now, more that are coming. But a lot of us have heard your name. A lot of us have watched your entertainment. We're so excited about what you're doing, so thank you for that. I want to start with something that I don't know that you have touched on in public. But we're among family, so we're going to do it right here, right now. You were previously with the Hallmark Channel, and all of a sudden one day you were gone. And you have not really given us the behind the scenes, the scoop, that's what our journalists like to get, in terms of what really happened. Would you like to talk about that for the first time right here publicly?
Of course, sure.
I'm dying to hear this story. I really want to hear this.
Well, we worked together a lot at that time.
Yes.
And we will work together.
At the Hallmark
again.
Channel, but amazingly, after you left, I didn't work at the Hallmark Channel anymore.
Well, you're next. After he tells his story, your story's coming.
Yes. No. Well, you know, so we had a great team at Hallmark that built an incredible franchise and a great brand and a network and a bunch of networks, actually. And we got to the point in 2017, we were #1, fourth quarter, with Countdown to Christmas, and very successful. And at that point, though, you could see the change in, you know, the chairman and the management at the parent company and the family to become much more woke and DEI driven, very DEI driven. And so, you know, they were in DEI before it was cool to be in DEI. Mm-hmm. And the reality of that was that we were serving an audience that was focused on family-friendly content and faith-based content, that they wanted traditions, they wanted values, they wanted to see that expressed on TV. And so there was tremendous pressure from the family to make changes.
So at some point then you decided, and you stood up and had the courage to say, I'm not going along with this. I heard, and maybe this little birdie told me the right information or the wrong information, but there was an incident that happened with the White House tree lighting.
Well, this was really the beginning of really seeing this become public or become evident to me. We were chosen to host and televise the White House tree lighting. It was President Trump's first time doing the tree lighting. And there was an article in The Hill that said, Trump White House partners with Hallmark Channel for Christmas tree lighting. And it was wildly successful. It was the president's first tree lighting. We had talent there. It did big ratings. It was a big part of our Christmas presentation. And the reaction was, at the time, that's not so good. and you're either with humanity or you're against it.
That's what you were told?
Yes.
And what was your response?
Well, at the time, I was totally shocked. We had an incredibly successful business that was thriving, and we were, by any measure, we were told for many years we could never be successful as an independent, that we were just, in over our head. We wouldn't be able to survive, and we were hugely successful. So, I kind of took a little grain of salt. At the time, though, I was, very shaken by that thinking, and then you saw it become more pervasive over the next couple of years. So, and we had an audience that was so loyal, loved what we did so much, and they had nowhere else to go on TV. There are many places. Any place you want to go, you're going to find different type of content that is not family friendly and values based.
When you're faced with something like that, there had to be a level of heartbreak there, because you've poured your life, you've poured your career into that, you've poured your mission, your testimony, your own personal faith into that, and when you come to a moment like that,
and reading notes from viewers who were just so disappointed with, what the direction was is heartbreaking.
Wow. Dean, you were with Hallmark Channel as well. Of course, you guys have a history. And you left. Tell us a little bit about your personal experience.
By the way, did I host that Christmas meeting? I did host that one.
As a matter of fact.
Did you know that was going on behind the scenes at the time?
No, I was too busy working for him. I didn't know that was I didn't realize that was the feedback, which is amazing, because I remember it being a very successful event. It was great fun. And, it's shocking to hear that. It's actually ridiculous. And, when Bill left Hallmark, I was shocked as well, because I had been doing a lot of films for them, and I enjoyed them so much. I'm a single father, and I wanted to make a lot of content that my son could see and my family could see and be around that, and that I wanted to watch. And you really built an incredible brand. Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, Bill was gone, and my phone never rang from Hallmark again. And I was like, wow, okay, whatever has happened with the sort of the wokeness, there wasn't going to be me on the other end of the line, which I was okay with. I mean, I had plenty of other things to do. But I found that shocking. I love what you've built. Congratulations again. But it's just that you've proven that what you're putting out there is what people want to watch. And that's fantastic. As far as being canceled, they tried to cancel me in Hollywood so many times. If an actor speaks up on something, listen, and for actors, go ahead and speak up or don't. It doesn't matter to me. I would work with Robert De Niro. He's a great actor. I don't like his politics. Rob Reiner, very good director. I don't agree with his politics either. But I would still work with him. And I don't think it works the other way around. Like, I don't think Rob Reiner, and I've met with Rob since, and he didn't hire me, but it could be for many reasons. But, you just sort of wonder, why it's so solid, such a solid wall on one side and not the other. So I don't think I've ever really been canceled, because I continue to work constantly, and I voice my opinion, and thank you.
Well, absolutely. There is an element of courage when it comes to pressure from the world. And as Christians, we need to understand that we are called to be bold. We're called to be confident, and we're called to operate in excellence at all times. It's interesting because now there is a headline of an article in the New York Times that reads,
"This ought to be good.
The woke movies era is over." That was the New York Times. Absolutely. And I want to read this other, because I want both of you to kind of speak to this, because you have been on the forefront of leading by example when it comes to standing up. There is a cultural shift. This is a quote. And this cultural shift is not merely a trend. It is a revival that has the potential to reshape society in ways that will make the powerful take notice. It is not about political parties, yet its impact will be felt across the political and cultural landscape as young people find hope and identity in Christ and step up as the next generation of leaders. That is where we are.
Are you sure that was the New York Times?
That was not the New York Times.
Oh, that part wasn't.
That was the Christian Post.
There we go.
There you go. The New York Times has declared woke movies that era over. With that being said, Bill, what is next for Great American media?
Well, we're going to be true to who we are. We will never compromise our values. We will never change. And We don't care what the environment is. We will be serving the viewer, which we believe, by the way, is the vast majority of the country who want to see faith-based content that's family-friendly and supports the country and isn't derisive of those elements. So we will never change who we are.
What is the importance, Dean, because you have been very outspoken, like you said. It is not the majority of the country that was asking for the woke content that was being put out. I work for Dr. Phil's Merit TV, and Dr. Phil has done so much research on this fringe that seems to have the microphone. You have challenged that. Talk about the significance of where we are right now and what opportunity we have to spread faith, family, and traditional values.
Well, you kind of don't have to look any much further than what Bill has done at Great American Media.
Yeah.
There's a reason that folks have flocked over there. I'm not sure about the Hallmark numbers anymore, but I got a funny feeling they're not as good as they used to be, my friend, and I think your numbers are up. People go and watch what they want to watch, and they'll find that, and I think that's wonderful. Andrew Breitbart, who was a friend of mine, once said that, you know, politics are downstream from culture. When you're making content like Bill is making and putting out there, people want that, and they will come to it, and they will see it. And I think that's super important. I love making that stuff because I want my son to be able to, you know, watch this. Now, he's 24 now, so he's getting into different things. But when he was in high school, he was at a Christian school, and I did a film called God's Not Dead. I did not play a nice guy in that. And everybody watched the film, and the school went to see it, and they're like, dude, your dad's a jerk. So, no, he's acting. He's acting. But, I mean, I think it's so important to have those conversations, and those kind of films and shows, they have those families have conversations because of them. When you're putting out this other content for just a fringe number of people, they'll die. And that's why, you know, companies like, I'm not going to pick on Disney, but Disney has not done a remarkable job with their franchises, rebranding, changing things, and look at the success that Bill has had. And I think it's wonderful.
The courage to do that, though, is so incredible, because without talent like you in God's Not Dead, it isn't the franchise that it is.
That's right.
Thank you, good sir.
I've had the opportunity to be in 2 of the God's Not Dead movies. We met at the Dallas premiere of God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. If you haven't seen it, it's a powerful movie because it mirrors what is actually happening in our society today. It's the spiritual warfare that we all are watching play out. Talk about this Gen Z revival that is happening. We're seeing it in sports with players. We're seeing it with coaches. Ohio State University, guys, they just had 2,000 young people accept Christ on campus. This is happening. So talk about how we're going to come alongside those young people and help catapult them into being the next generation of godly, faith-filled leaders.
I think you talk about it openly and you have those conversations. I mean, if we had this conversation 3 years ago, oh my gosh, what a horrible conversation to have. But now it's okay to have this conversation. And he should. And my son's 24. Does that make him a Gen Z guy? Does that qualify as Gen Z?
So.
Does it? In that area. I was worried about our youth. I really was.
Yeah.
Until I started talking to him and some of his friends. And there's some common sense out there. Yeah. And I think it's wonderful. And so doing this, putting out content that they can watch and talk about and showing them, again, politics downstream from culture. Yeah. Put it out there and hopefully change the culture. And I think it's happening.
How are you going for that audience? Because we know right now, looking at the statistics, Bible sales are up with Gen Zers. Young men are returning to church in droves. And there are young people who are really returning back to traditional values, faith-filled families. So now it's up to us to come alongside them and help them fly and shine.
The woke left went so far in the other direction. And it was so offensive that it's moved people more toward, faith and family and country and supporting the values they love.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, what are you working on? What do we need to be looking for? We have about a minute, 15 seconds left. What should we be looking from your company? And Dean, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Wow. Well, we will.
Give us the scoop.
That's a big question. We want to work with him. We have two great, our two biggest platforms. Our flagship is streaming and is PureFlix, which we mentioned, and Great American Family. Both are great and successful, and we're very pleased with both. We have a lot of original content on both, original series, original movies, and we'll keep doing that.
Awesome.
I hope to work for him for a long time. That's what I want to do. And I want to keep making content that gets people thinking and talking. Sometimes I'll be the bad guy, but you need a good bad guy with a good message in the film. So I hope to just keep making more and more content and putting it out there and having conversations like this that further our nation and our faith, and I hope it's successful.
And all of us as believers, we are part of this. Each of us has a role to play. So quickly, in 10 seconds or less, what is your message to everyone sitting in here in terms of their role in making this happen and getting this out in their communities?
Support projects and channels and platforms like Bill's. I mean, 100% it. I mean, I give great support to it, and that support means everything.
And be proud of it, and never shy away from it, never run from it, and always be who you are.
And we will continue to give God the glory. Let's thank Bill and Dean Cain, and thank all of you. God bless you, and God bless this great United States of America.
Thank you, fans.
Welcome to CPAC. At Great American Media, we celebrate what matters most: faith, family, and country. Today, we invite you to experience storytelling that uplifts, inspires, and reflects the values we all cherish. PureFlix is your home for entertainment without compromise. With faith-driven movies and series, we bring you stories that strengthen hearts, uplift spirits, and honor what truly matters. And on Great American Family, where faith leads, where stories inspire. Welcome home. Whether it's Christmas all year long, heartfelt romances, or movies that bring families together, we are here to make you feel at home. At Great American Media, our foundation is quality. Our promise is to always deliver entertainment that aligns with your faith and values. Thank you for standing with us as we stand for faith, family, and country. Enjoy CPAC. And remember, when you choose Great American Media, you choose entertainment that lifts you up. Join us and experience the best in faith and family entertainment.
The only homicide on January 6th was the unlawful shooting death of Ashley Babbitt. This major new lawsuit that Judicial Watch filed, a $30 million wrongful death lawsuit against the United States government. She was unarmed. There were no weapons visible. She was shot in the shoulder and killed by Lieutenant Byrd. He popped out and shot her dead. Ashley was shot in cold blood, and the rule of law requires justice for her.
Who's AARP really watching out for these days? They've made billions partnering with big health insurance corporations while opposing reforms seniors want, like applying big discounts to medicines directly at the pharmacy counter. Instead, AARP supports liberal price-setting schemes, giving politicians, not seniors, control over any so-called Medicare savings. With no guarantees, funds won't be spent on unrelated programs or pad big insurers' profits. If AARP and Congress believe America's seniors aren't watching, think again. Paid for by American Commitment.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a conversation with U.S. Envoy for Special Missions, Ambassador Richard Grinnell, and Politico White House Bureau Chief Dasha Burns.
See, they're going to be nice to you.
That's right. Look at this.
Hey everyone, it is his fault that a Politico journalist is on this stage, so don't get mad at me, get mad at the ambassador. All right, I have so much I want to talk with you about, but the number one thing that everyone's been asking me about you is a new hat that you're wearing at the Kennedy Center.
Oh.
What is going on? How did that happen? How big an art connoisseur are you? Walk me through the behind the scenes there.
Well, we want to make art great again.
And what does that mean?
No, look, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think the frustration that President Trump had is that the Kennedy Center has no cash on hand, no reserves, and they have been paying for the salaries with the debt reserves. while taking around $40 million of public money. And so you can't have that. If you're going to take public money, then you get to have public input. And so what we're going to say at the Kennedy Center is, first of all, we got to clean up the financial situation. We have to do the big productions that the masses and the public want to see. We want to have really good programming. So the first thing that we're doing, I think the big change, is for everybody to know you got to be at the Kennedy Center in December, because we are doing a big, huge celebration of the birth of Christ at Christmas. How crazy is it to think that we're going to celebrate Christ at Christmas with a big traditional production to celebrate what we are all celebrating in the world during Christmas time, which is the birth of Christ?
Do you worry at all, though? I know there have been some folks who have been dropping out of performing at the Kennedy Center in protest. Do you worry about being able to bring in big artists to the center?
No, we don't, because we already have them, and I think it's a real misnomer. But let me just say, there's one thing that got a lot of attention that this group dropped out, and it was all blamed on President Trump and me. And we've tried to correct the record, and I think we're going to have to do a more direct job, because it wasn't true. They had the Kennedy Center, before I arrived, before President Trump was the chairman, the Kennedy Center had made some decisions about this individual group to change them because ticket sales were atrocious. And so they said, you know what, we can't have this because we really don't have any money, and we can't be spending on things that aren't bringing in revenue. And so they made this change before we came, and then it was announced, and suddenly it was, you know, the gay men's chorus or something was dropping out because of Trump. That wasn't true. And it was replaced with some other things. That happens all the time. So I would just challenge you.
You would welcome the gay men's choir to perform if they were interested?
Well, first of all, right now, if you're going to take public money, you have to prove that you actually can bring in revenue. We don't have any money. The woman that had my job before me was getting paid $1.3 million a year, and we had no money.
How much are you getting paid for this?
Way, way, way less.
Wait, let me ask real quick, though, because we were talking about this a little bit backstage. How did this happen? Because you're going to Venezuela, you're going to Munich, and then suddenly you wake up and you're running the Kennedy Center?
Well, again, I think it was a frustration from the president that there was no money at the Kennedy Center.
But why you?
Content
and how
was
did it
crazy.
come about?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Look, I love the arts. I'm somebody who, goes already to lots of different art styles. I appreciate a whole bunch of different styles of art. If I started naming all these things, you would be like, wait a minute.
You're a connoisseur. We believe it. So listen, I want to talk about some of the major conflicts that we're seeing around the world right now that I know you've been working on. Number one, I mean, I think this has been top of the list for everyone at the White House, is the situation in Ukraine. In your conversations with President Trump, what do you hear from him about what's going on with his relationship with Zelensky, President Zelensky? Because it's clear that they've never necessarily been best friends, but it feels like in the last few days in particular, that relationship has soured. What's going on?
Look, I think, I'm so thankful that we have a president who's concentrating on peace. And that's what Donald Trump has just said. Let's stop. Remember that we handed Joe Biden total peace in the Middle East and total peace in Europe. He handed us a war in the Middle East and a war in Europe, and we can never forget that. So I do get a little bit frustrated with reporters when they're trying to say, oh, your decision now isn't perfect. I'm like, yeah, we were put in a hole. We were put in a terrible situation. There are no great solutions right now, so you're going to have to be patient with us that we're trying to dig the Biden people out from this terrible $100 billion hole that they created. That's the first thing. The second thing is I don't think it's fair to say that somehow President Trump has met with President Zelensky 4 or 5 times. The Trump team has met with the Ukrainians and Zelensky another 4 or 5 times. So let's say we're up to 10 times meeting with the Ukrainians. I never once heard from the media and outraged that the Russians weren't invited to those talks. However, the one time that the Trump team reaches out to say, how about we talk to the Russians, there's this hue and cry from the Europeans and everybody to say, why aren't the Ukrainians
involved? Well, I think
involved?
it's because the Russians are the aggressors in this situation, and that's another question I wanted to ask you. You know, President Trump has blamed Ukraine recently for starting the war. You know better than anyone that it was Russian aggression actually back in 2014. People forget that this goes over a decade back. But it was Russia that invaded Ukraine. So do you have a sense of why President Trump is making these claims now that
Look,
Ukraine started the war?
I think what President Trump is saying very clearly is we have to stop this war. He is somebody who's concentrating on saying to both sides, let's talk to both sides and figure out how we stop this. Again, we have terrible choices because of the Biden team. There's not a lot of great choices. And so, yeah, is there frustration that things are not perfect in Ukraine right now? Yeah, but I'm a little bit annoyed that we were handed a file that was war when we handed them a file that was peace. And so I do think that we're frustrated. And it's
but why make those false claims about who started the war? Why call Zelensky a dictator? What is happening there?
Look, I think the American people are really frustrated with Zelensky. I think that there's a big frustration that he's not making great choices for peace. And again, when the American people are spending hundreds of billions of dollars, there's a frustration. Let's go back, you said 2014. Let's go back just to the beginning of this war, where Joe Biden messaged for more than 30 days that he knew through intelligence that a war was absolutely coming. The Europeans and the Biden administration all did one thing, which was prepare for more war. They talked about more funding for war. They battened down the hatches. They got hardware in there. No one was talking about peace. I actually think it's pretty immoral if the President of the United States says we're having a war in 30 days and we know for sure, and no one shows up in Moscow and Kiev to try to say, let's do diplomacy, let's stop a war. And now we're $100 billion later, and so there's a frustration.
So you said President Zelensky isn't making the choices for peace. What do you think are those choices that he should make to bring an end to this, that he's not making now?
First of all, hundreds of billions of dollars of American money, again, I'll say that, and a whole bunch is missing. So we immediately say, okay, mismanagement of funds. What we want to see is talks with Putin. I don't think that talking means that you're weak. I actually think talking is a tactic to get to a goal. And so we've seen with President Trump, he can show up with Kim Jong-un, and we need to be able to have these conversations with the Russians. Look, I've done negotiations my whole life. I did Serbia-Kosovo negotiations. And I can tell you that if you're in the middle trying to bring peace, trying to make sure we're not spending hundreds of billions of dollars on war and we're saving lives, you need at least a person in the middle who can say, I'm going to talk to these guys, and I'm going to talk to these guys, and I don't care what kind of criticism I get. I got to figure out a way for peace. It's not going to be perfect, Dasha. I will give you that. But again, I go back to the fact of we had it perfect in terms of peace. We were handed a war, and now we're being criticized of, well, how do you dig us out of a war, and you're not doing it fast enough, and you're not doing it fair enough? So we're a little frustrated.
So the social media stuff, I mean, President Trump called Zelensky a dictator. Do you believe he's a dictator?
Well, I think when you reject having elections and you're not moving towards that way, that people get angry about that.
Is Putin a dictator?
Of course.
Putin is a dictator?
Yeah, of course.
So the stuff that we're seeing on social media...
But I want to say one thing that's really important in this conversation. Donald Trump has done something different than Republican foreign policy leaders have done for 25 years.
This is a paradigm shift, what he's doing.
We articulate very clearly under Donald Trump, we don't do regime change. We are going to deal with the countries that are in front of us. And our criteria is not how do we make that country better, how do we make America better, stronger, and more prosperous for the people that live here.
So I was in the East Room when President Trump held the presser with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he announced the plans for the Riviera of the Middle East in Gaza. Is that art of the deal talk? Is that a serious plan? What is your sense of where President Trump is headed with that idea?
Well, first of all, let's start from the fact that he's a great negotiator. So we know that he's negotiating all of the time. Secondly, I think, again, I sound like, you know, I keep repeating myself, but we had peace there. We had peace agreements, right? The media and the intelligence agencies told President Trump if you moved the embassy, there would be outright war. We know the opposite happened. Peace agreements broke out. And so I think you got to say to Donald Trump, you know how to deliver peace. You certainly know how to negotiate Americans into a peaceful situation. And so my kind of attitude is let's watch and see how this plays out, because I have full faith that Donald Trump is a great negotiator, and he's delivered peace before, and he's going to have to do it again now because of the Biden regime.
Regardless of what it looks like, us getting involved in Gaza, I mean, President Trump has talked about getting out of foreign entanglements. That's a promise that he made on the campaign trail. How does that jive with his promise?
I think that's an incredibly fair question.
Thank you. You hear that, guys?
No, I do. I think it's a legitimate question to say, wait a minute, you've said this.
Yeah.
Again, what I think the thinking and the criteria is how do we deliver peace? And I've spent 8 years at the UN, and what's been happening in the Palestinian territories and in Gaza, we've been talking about for decades. We were talking about this.
The U.S. still has a role to play and should play a role in peace in the Middle East, even with the America First agenda?
Yes, but that doesn't immediately mean that we jump to boots on the ground. And I would say the other thing is, I'm a diplomat. You're going to hear me talk about diplomacy, not about war and the things of war. But I will say that as kind of a chastisement to the public debate right now, when you talk about security assurances, stop assuming that security assurances are just simply American boots or UN boots and guns. I can't think of a better security assurance than private equity folks on the ground. American businessmen on the ground trying to do deals and help rebuild or help bring economic development. If you've got a bunch of Americans or Westerners even that are in Ukraine, that are in the Black Sea, doing economic development, I can't think of a better way to have a security assurance.
And I know we're running low on time here. I do want to talk to you about the wildfires in Los Angeles. I know you know people who have lost homes. I think anyone that knows anyone in LA knows people who have had tremendous loss there. How are the recovery efforts going? I know the president at the roundtable in the Palisades tasked you with some of that effort. How are things going with FEMA? We know Democrats and Republicans can agree that FEMA doesn't always work effectively and quickly. What are the bottlenecks, and what are you doing there?
Well, thanks for asking. I think that the reality is that the federal response is mostly money, and so we are going to have strings on the money that we give to California. They've made terrible...
There will be conditions, okay.
There will be conditions. We're talking about those conditions now. As a Californian, I'm all for it, because I don't have faith that if we went back and we just gave California hundreds of millions of dollars, they were going to go back to their same old ways of not giving enough water, having dangerous situations on the ground when it comes to forestry. It's going to happen again.
Yeah, what are some of those strings you're talking about?
Well, I don't want to commit too much, but...
Give us a little.
But I will say this. Everyone who's involved knows that the California Coastal Commission is a disaster, and it needs to absolutely be defunded. And from just a way to think about government, we already have local government making these decisions. Layering it on with the California Coastal Commission is a terrible idea. It's an unelected group of people who are crazy woke left, and one person can stop progress, and they've made California less safe. I think squeezing their federal funds making sure they don't get funds, putting strings on them to get rid of the California Coastal Commission is going to make California better.
While we're on California, since you have so many ideas for the state, are we going to see Richard Grenell run for governor of California?
Honestly, it's not in my plan unless Kamala Harris runs for governor. If Kamala runs,
You're jumping in?
I mean, here's the thing. We already know who she is. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to define who Kamala Harris is. If she thinks that she's going to run for governor of California, a Republican is going to win, and I may not be able to resist trying to run against her.
Making news here at CPAC. Lastly, before I let you go, we talked about the Kennedy Center. You've got that performance coming up in December, but what is your ideal performance at the Kennedy Center if you could have anyone perform?
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton. Is that an official invitation?
Of course, of course. I'd love to see it.
All right, Mr. Grenell, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, it's Matt Schlapp with CPAC. You know, we've had a huge problem in this country with election fraud. But at CPAC, that's not a problem. Our only problem is getting each and every one of you to vote. So look at your badge. You have a number on that badge. And get your phone out and vote on all the issues that matter. And my guess is you probably like what Trump's doing as well. And we'll have the results for you very soon.
Wherever human freedom is under attack, in courtrooms, legislatures, and the public square, we stand ready to defend it. This is why Alliance Defending Freedom exists.
Supreme Court victory for a Christian woman who was taken to court for standing firm in her beliefs.
The First Amendment follows a golden rule. If we want to protect speech for ourselves, then we need to protect it for others.
A video released this week by ADF International has attracted over 34 million views and even attracted comment from Elon Musk. It concerned a pair of Swiss parents who have had their child taken away from them because they objected to her gender transition.
We're not just here to stop the erosion of liberty for this moment alone. We are here to keep the door open for the gospel. And when the gospel does its work, truth doesn't just hold its ground. It advances. It sets people free for generations to come. This is our mission at Alliance Defending Freedom.
Every institution today is under attack. The home, the church, the government. And many people are asking, what is the truth? Jesus Christ claimed the ultimate truth. Are you willing to face the truth?
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation.
We all answer to one God and one Savior, and He's there to change your life for the better.
During my second term, we will fight for Alaska like never before.
I'm excited about what we can do with President Trump in the office.
We'll work together to provide affordable energy to Alaska and allies all over the world.
More investment, more certainty, production, more exploration.
Thank you to everyone in Alaska, and thank you to your great governor. I look forward to a long and enduring future relationship. Drill, baby, drill.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the new G.I. Joes. Please welcome former U.S. Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill, UFC fighter and Special Forces operator Tim Kennedy, and your host of the Carl Higbie Frontline on Newsmax, Carl Higbie.
Yes! What up, Drago? I love you, brother.
All right. Well, they gave us open mics, no script,
and a bunch of guys who used to shoot people.
Tell the story.
No, so the last, we were talking 12 years actually, not just last 4, have been disastrous for the military, not only domestically but on the global stage.
That's the truth. Yeah, pretty madness. Been losing wars everywhere that we look. On multiple continents, we've been losing our strategic positions and strategic bases that we've fought for decades, from Africa, literally every single continent, to Eastern Europe, and obviously in the global war on terror after 20 years, the most embarrassing withdrawal in American history.
Yeah, well, Rob, let's talk about that. We had the withdrawal from Iraq. I was in Iraq in 2009 when we were drawing down. I know you guys were in and out of the same areas. I was watching us pull resources out, denying the fact that there were bad guys still doing bad things, that were killing coalition troops, and yet they wouldn't let us get them because of the perception that the war was over.
Yeah, the perception of the war being over is something we've been doing wrong, and that's getting too political. And I don't mean just the politics of the country. I'm talking personal power for politicians. Making a promise to get out of a place because that was said in the campaign, or in the case of Afghanistan on 9/11. And just making decisions that don't make sense, because a lot of stuff, I don't know if you noticed in D.C., doesn't make sense. But the way that I put Iraq is one of those things where we shouldn't have invaded, but we shouldn't have left the way we did. And when the convoys coming from north to south, we should have hit them with some A-10s. ISIS is gone, didn't do that because I guess we could be nice to the enemy. But the thing with Afghanistan that I noticed too is if you took the bin Laden team and asked them to come up with the worst possible way out of Afghanistan, we would have come up with exactly the way the Biden administration did it. And that's all because they wanted to be out before 9/11. We lost a lot of people because of that.
Right, but the unwillingness to actually define the enemy was the bigger problem. It was, we're going to work with them, we're going to give them money. I mean, hell, we left, what, $80 billion worth of stuff, including night vision and Humvees over there. They didn't define the enemy, and therefore we couldn't defeat it.
I mean, that's the story old as time, right? Whether it's Vietnam, the Korea War, us being able to define who we're fighting is something that it's necessary for us to know who to beat. You know, if you take the military and you point them, I still believe, even though we are in a dangerous position with Secretary Hegseth trying to fight to bring back the strength, we still have, without a doubt, the most powerful military on the planet. And I'm so inspired by the young men and women that, especially recently, have raised their hand to serve. But watching Pete Hegseth, I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah.
In Germany, training with the Special Forces unit, like with the Hulk running right in front of him.
That guy was huge.
He was huge.
That's a big dude.
I'm just like, that's the America that I know and that I love.
Put that on a recruiting poster. I mean, Rob, we had record low recruiting over the last 4 years. It turns out if you tell a bunch of people that were in your ranks that they don't like them anymore, they go home.
Yeah.
And we had posters of people with 2 moms, or transgender this, or DEI that. It's like, well, this is a place where we're supposed to put bullets in bad guys' faces.
That's it too. And the military can be very simple. The way you're successful in the military is master the basics, keep it simple, and leave the diplomacy to the diplomats, right? Go in, crush people, and leave. That's all it's got to be. And then we just start getting into this woke ideology with, okay, you're raised by 2 women in San Francisco. Great, fine. I don't think ISIS is afraid of that. I don't think Al-Qaeda is afraid of that. And even like Queers for Palestine, if they went over there,
we'd throw them off.
If I went over there with them, they'd murder them before they murdered me. They don't like them.
Yeah.
But the problem is we're trying to play nice with everybody. It's like, well, I don't know if it's you don't understand them, or like we were talking backstage about the enemy. Or you just said just now on the stage. We're bad at defining the enemy, and we just think that. Here's a little thing I learned as a battle interrogator, especially dealing with terrorists. They lie.
No.
Yeah, they'll lie.
What?
Yeah, they'll lie to your face.
Weird.
Drago, back me up on that.
But we can sit here and joke about this, but there's some serious work. And look, I actually talked to Secretary Hegseth this morning about it, was trying to get him to call in, but he has this little thing like managing the whole country's, DOD. But he's got a serious job ahead of him. I mean, they've already increased recruiting in 30 days. Weird how if you put warfighters, you attract more warfighters. But in order to do that, I mean, you're talking about a massive deficit, not only from a financial standpoint, where we've spent 3 times as much on aircraft carrier budgets, where we've massively reduced the force. The COVID vaccine was one of the greatest reductions of good men and women, and we have to build that back. How do we start?
It's a great question, and I think from the top down, seeing the Secretary of Defense out doing PT with the troops in the morning. It's not just the number in which we were failing to recruit for the past 4 years, but it's who we have been recruiting. We were recruiting, and I'm so grateful for everybody that raised their hand to serve. we want strong, fearless people that want to be part of the most lethal fighting force on the planet.
Yep.
That's who we want. We want them as a deterrent. We want the rest of the world and every single one of our peer-level adversaries to look at our men and women in uniform and be like, nah, not freaking worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the other thing, too, is, Rob, you walked in a door, shot the world's most wanted criminal in the face, and didn't think twice about it. How do we get more people...
Thank you.
How do we get more people that want to join because of that versus college benefits, which are great, but also, pushing DEI, pushing personal growth, and things like this? How do we get more people that want to join because they want to do what you did?
I think it starts with the recruiting, and it impacted me more to see the Marine killing the dragon with the sword. I really like that. Plus the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen. That was really,
greatest movie ever.
Really,
That's
greatest
why
movie,
I became a SEAL.
100% accurate. But it's got to start with that too. And we're in a place too, and it's the generation with staring at your phone, not going to the gym, stuff like that. We just lower the standards. It's like, well, you can't do the set amount of pushes. We'll just cut it in half. And I think that, the good men and women are out there. We just haven't been focusing on them. They're great people. There always has been. The leadership has gotten bad simply because you get to a certain level, be it senior enlisted or a senior officer, you become political because you want the next job right down the street here. The way to do it is literally get back to the basics, which is forward defense, alliance solidarity, and deterrence. And we're just simply not going to deter people by being nice, but the military's job is not to be nice. Again, we do have public affairs, great. We also have infantry who will swim over the horizon at night and kill you, and that's what we need.
And not to mention, we will complain about it the whole time we're swimming.
Oh, yeah.
Why do SEALs post-career don't like cold water, or
they torture us with it?
It's wet.
The water's wet. I've seen dudes in combat go an extra mile just to not get their feet.
Yeah, man.
I'm not even making that up. America's finest, just keep me dry.
Yeah, exactly.
With recruiting, the standards have to be set. They have to be met. They cannot be moved. They cannot be bent. It has to be merit-based. If you're going to fly a helicopter, it's because you're the best person that can be on the stick.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be pulling down night vision to go on a mission, it's because you passed every single one of the standards to be there, and you deserve to be there, whether you're wearing a trident, a green beret, or you are proudly just running down, as every single infantryman knows, to shoot, move, communicate, and medicate. You met the standard, and you deserve to be there.
Right. Well, that's the other thing, too. A 7.62 doesn't understand the difference if you're black, white, blue, green, 5'7", 5'4", 250, 150, it doesn't matter. So why did we get away from a general standard, and now if you're a 40-year-old woman in the military, you can get 24 minutes to run 2 miles, but if you're a 22-year-old male, you have to do it in 18 minutes. Like, how did we deviate?
Well, I mean, again, we need to get back to we deviated just by, we saw when I joined in 1996, uniform, bad haircut, and all we saw was green or blue. That's it. But now we're to the point, because of a softer outlook, or because we're so connected, just be yourself. Express yourself. That's not the military's job to express yourself. You'll be fine. But again, too, 16 and a half years in the Navy, with the men and women with whom I served, we never had a problem with sexism or racism, because it just didn't make sense. We knew each other. Even when I was getting out, don't ask, don't tell was the big thing. And I remember in Afghanistan, this is after the Bin Laden raid, looking at a bunch of Navy SEALs, I know damn well some of you are gay. I don't really care. And at the bottom line, what you do behind closed doors is your business. The big question is, can you carry me with body armor after I've been shot and bring me home to my wife? That's it.